Chapter 165. In the training room of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, after refining the essence and blood of the heavenly elephant, in addition to the substantial improvement of the physical body grade, what made Yuhaoran most excited was that after devouring the remnant soul of the ancient divine elephant, not only was his soul nourished by the remnant soul, but he also obtained 3 ancient divine elephant foot techniques from the remnant soul's memory. Step on the ground, step on the sky, step on the spirit. The only regret was that if he wanted to practice these 3 foot techniques, his cultivation must break through the martial arts grandmaster realm, and he needed the cooperation of the spiritual power. Forcibly suppressing the joy in his heart, Yuhaoran seized the time to absorb the remaining essence and blood in his body and took out a part of the 8th rank and 9th rank spirit stones. Using the essence and spirit stones, he strived to improve the physical body grade to the limit of the bottleneck of the realm and tried to break through the bottleneck to see how much energy it would take to break through the complete 10th rank physical body realm. With the dual assistance of the essence and spirit stones, Yuhaoran quickly felt the limit of the bottleneck and then used the superposition of the 2 energies to begin to attack the bottleneck. 3 consecutive attacks. The first 2 attacks had no effect at all. Only the 3rd attack barely loosened the bottleneck a little. The 3 attacks not only consumed the remaining energy of the essence and blood, but also consumed at least 48th rank and 9th rank spirit stones. Judging from this, if he wanted to break through the bottleneck of the complete 10th rank physical body realm, he would need at least thousands of 8th rank and 9th rank spirit stones. Thinking of this, Yuhaoran had to rejoice that he had emptied all the spirit stones in the Law Enforcement Peak's treasure house. Otherwise, with the energy needed to improve his realm and physical body, he was afraid that the spirit stones he had harvested would not last for too long. Slowly opening his eyes, Yuhaoran exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi that had accumulated in his chest. He found that Wu Jinjun had woken up and was guarding the door of the training room. In this regard, although Yuhaoran did not say anything, he was very satisfied in his heart. This showed that no matter what kind of environment, Wu Zhongjuan's subconscious choice was to protect his own safety. Wasn't this what he wanted after all the effort he had put in? Zhongjun, how are the effects of the sky-devouring snake's blood essence? Yuhaoran asked concernedly as he gestured for Wu Jingjun to come to his side. My physical body has already reached the peak of 9th grade martial warrior. My bloodthirsty physique has been activated by 70%, and my cultivation has also reached the peak of 8th grade martial warrior. Also, after devouring the monster that appeared in the blood essence, I discovered that the devouring secret art seems to have leveled up. However, as for how powerful it is after leveling up, I'll have to test it by devouring exotic beasts. Without hiding anything, Wu Zhongjun explained in detail how refining the sky-devouring snake's blood essence had improved his cultivation base and changed it. The improvement of the grade of his physical body, the continuous activation of the bloodthirsty physique, and the substantial breakthrough in his cultivation were all within Yuhaoran's expectations. However, what he did not expect was that the devouring secret art, which should have remained unchanged, had actually leveled up in Wu Zhongjuan's hands. This made him feel shocked, and at the same time, a trace of envy and jealousy arose in his heart. Yuhaoran, the devouring secret art that I've improved is actually a simplified version of the complete devouring secret art. As an indirect disciple of the blood demon, it's normal for Wu Jingjun to be able to level up the devouring secret art. Faling had already noticed the change in Yuhaoran's mind and knew the reason for it, so he promptly comforted him. Everyone has their own opportunities. Faling, don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who can't see past things. It was only because of the powerful auxiliary effect of the devouring secret art that Yuhaoran temporarily felt envious and jealous. However, with his experience and cultivation base, even without Faling's comforting, he could think it through on his own. That's right. Nodding towards Wu Jinjun, Yuhaoran took out 10 boxes of 8th level spirit stones from the victor and neatly placed them in front of him. Jingjun, due to your special physique and the limitations of your cultivation, medicinal pills won't be of much use, and magic tools won't be of much use for the time being. Therefore, you should first use the spirit stones to consolidate your cultivation and familiarize yourself with the power you've gained after breaking through. When the Blue Moon Secret Realm opens, there will be a few spirit fruits and spirit herbs that can help you and me break through to the Martial Master Realm. At that time, you and I will work together to seize these spirit herbs and spirit fruits. Nodding his head, Wu Zhengjun stood up and planned to return to the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. However, looking at the 10 boxes filled with spirit stones, he was once again caught in a difficult situation. Unlike the other 8 senior martial brothers, they could use their spirit energy to wrap the boxes and leave the Veiled Moon Pavilion. As for him, who is only an 8th grade martial warrior, he was unable to take the boxes filled with spirit stones in one go. Seeing that Wu Zhengjun was caught in a dilemma, Yu Haoran criticized him with a smile. "I think you've gone stupid from cultivating. This is the Clear Cloud Peak, the Veiled Moon Pavilion. These spirit stones are very safe here. You can take 2 boxes first and come back for them after you've used them up." Ha! Laughing dryly, Wu Zhengjun picked up the 2 boxes of spirit stones and walked out of the cultivation room. Seeing Wu Zhengjun leave the cultivation room, the smile on Yu Haoran's face disappeared and was replaced by a serious expression. Although he had successfully sensed the bottleneck of the perfect 10th grade with the help of Ba Tian Xiang's blood essence, without breaking through to the perfect 10th grade, the increase in his strength was limited. In other words, without being able to use the spirit energy in his dantian, he could only display the strength of a peak 1st grade martial warrior. Even if he used a few martial skills that had reached the peak of the mastery realm, he could at most defeat an early 2nd grade martial master. In this Blue Moon Secret Realm, there were at least 10 people who could display the strength of a 2nd grade martial master with the cultivation of a peak 9th grade martial warrior. There were even 2 people who could display the strength of a peak 2nd grade martial master, close to an early 3rd grade martial master. Therefore, if he wanted to take the spirit medicine that was effective for martial kings and martial kings, he would definitely have to clash with these people. Moreover, among the 10 people, 7 of them were enemies that he wanted to deal with in advance. There were less than 2 days until the opening of the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Without being able to use the spirit energy in his dantian, he could only rely on secret techniques to increase his strength. Fortunately, he had grasped many secret techniques in his previous life. Among them, there were a few that had very little side effects, and there were even a few that had no side effects. Therefore, combining the conditions in the real world, he chose a secret technique from the few secret techniques that did not have too many side effects to use as one of his trump cards to turn the tables in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. With the help of the secret technique as a trump card and the strength of a peak 1st grade martial master, Wu Zhengjun's goal and plan for this Blue Moon Secret Realm trial. Chapter 166. Qingyan Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. The sun rose, and the moon set. The moon rose, and the sun set. Less than 2 days had passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning, the 9 disciples of Qingyan Peak were all gathered in the pavilion of Hidden Moon Pavilion. "Zhengjun, I can see that the blood and qi in your body is like a pillar, and your yuan power is condensed. I wonder what level your cultivation has reached." Chu Zhongyu asked Wu Zhengjun, who was leaning against a stone pillar in the pavilion. Replying to senior brother, "I broke through to the peak of 8th grade martial warrior the day before yesterday." Wu Zhengjun replied truthfully. "What?" Huang Zonghua, who was chatting with his 2nd senior brother, jumped up in shock when he heard Wu Zhengjun's cultivation level. It should be noted that Wu Zhengjun had only joined the 100 Feet sect and became a disciple of the Clear Cloud Peak for a little more than a month. When he joined Qingyan Peak, he was only a 9th grade martial disciple. Even if he had a special physique, his cultivation level shouldn't have increased so quickly. In fact, it wasn't only Huang Zonghua who was shocked. Everyone present, including Lin Xian, who was not inferior to Wu Zhengjun in terms of talent and potential, looked at him in shock. "Junior brother, what is the grade of your body?" Suppressing the shock in his heart, Chu Zhongyu continued to ask. "Peak of 9th grade martial warrior." Wu Zhengjun replied truthfully. This, after hearing Wu Zhengjuan's answer, Chu Zhongyu and the others looked at each other and found that they couldn't suppress the shock in their eyes. It was easy to raise the cultivation level of a martial warrior. As long as there was enough energy, it could be maintained for a short period of time. However, to break through the physical body, not only did it require a large amount of energy, it also required willpower and perseverance that surpassed ordinary people. Even in a top sect, disciples who could raise their cultivation level and physical body grade to Wu Zhengjuan's level in a short month were definitely monstrous disciples. I originally thought that the monstrous disciple of Qingyun Peak was ninth junior brother. Now it seems that it is junior brother. Chu Zhongyu couldn't help but sigh. Lu Guangwei and the others also couldn't help but nod in agreement. No, senior brother. Compared to Yu Shixiang, my improvement is insignificant. Seeing that Chu Zhongyu's evaluation of him exceeded that of Yu Haoran, who he had always admired, Wu Zhengjun quickly retorted, "Oh, then I wonder what realm junior martial brother Yu's cultivation and physical body have reached." Chu Zhongyu and the others' eyes, Huang Zonghua, who had a lively personality, he couldn't help but ask jokingly. Half a month ago, senior martial brother Yu's cultivation and physical body both reached the peak of 9th grade martial warrior. However, I don't know why he hasn't broken through to martial master. However, I'm guessing that the reason why senior brother Yu is suppressing his breakthrough is most likely because he wants to participate in the opening of the Blue Moon Secret Realm today. Wu Zhengjun revealed Yu Haoran's true situation in full detail. What? Half a month ago, his cultivation and physical body had already reached the peak of 9th grade martial warrior. After hearing Wu Zhengjun reveal Yu Haoran's true cultivation, Chu Zhongyu stood up in shock. Lu Guangwei and the others also trembled. Senior brothers, you've come quite early. Just as everyone was shocked by Yu Haoran's monstrous progress, a surprise voice came from the Hidden Moon Pavilion's cultivation room. 9 junior brother, I just heard from junior brother that your cultivation and physical body had already reached the peak of 9th grade martial warrior half a month ago. Is that right? Seeing that Yu Haoran had finished cultivating, Huang Zonghua appeared in front of him in a flash and asked with a shocked expression. Actually, Huang Zonghua shouldn't be so shocked. After all, Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun were brought into the sect by him, and Chu Zhongyu at the same time. They were very familiar with their cultivation and condition. Although the two of them had outstanding talent and potential, especially Yu Haoran, who was a peerless genius, it was impossible for even a monstrous genius to directly increase his cultivation and physical body grade by an entire realm in such a short period of time. That's right, Yu Haoran calmly replied with a nod. In half a month's time, his cultivation had risen from 3rd grade martial disciple to 9th grade martial disciple, and his physical body grade had risen from 6th grade martial disciple to the peak of 9th grade martial disciple. In his opinion, this kind of advancement speed was already very slow. This was because in the 7 great sects, as well as the inherited families, some monstrous disciples could surpass the 3 realms of martial disciple, martial warrior, and martial master in half a year to a year and directly reach the martial ancestor realm. 9th junior brother, are you and youngest junior brother still human? Huang Zonghua roared with a sad and hopeless expression. Wu Zhengjun had a naive and innocent expression, while Yu Haoran had a matter-of-fact expression. This made Huang Zonghua, who had spent nearly a year to barely rise from 1st grade martial disciple to 9th grade martial disciple, feel that the heavens were unfair. 9th junior brother, youngest junior brother, I was originally worried about your training in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. After all, the reorganization of the Achievement Hall and the chaos in the Law Enforcement Peak were all because of you. The disciples of these 2 factions will definitely not let you off so easily. Chu Zhongyu gently said as he stood up and left the pavilion, pushing Huang Zonghua to the side. Chu Zhongyu, who was about to break through to the Martial King realm, had a strong mental state. He quickly accepted the fact that Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjuan's cultivation had risen so quickly in such a short period of time. Now it seems that I no longer need to worry about the 2 of you. After all, the two of you are peerless geniuses who have the strength to challenge those of a higher cultivation level. You only need to be careful and not fall into the enemy's trap. Chu Zhongyu warned. Eldest senior brother, don't worry. Zhongjun and I will be careful. Indicating that Chu Zhongyu did not need to worry, Yu Haoran gave Wu Xingjun a look, not allowing him to say that he was temporarily unable to use Yuan Li. All right, it's about time. I'll bring you and Zhongjun to the training peak now. After Wu Xingjun had become Feng Qingyun's disciple, he would either train with Yu Haoran or stay alone in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Chu Zhongyu did not know much about his personality and style. However, Yu Haoran knew that this junior brother of his was someone who planned before taking action. He was someone who had an endless amount of trump cards. If anyone wanted to take advantage of him, not only would they not be able to take advantage of him, they would also suffer an unforgettable loss. You guys can go back first. Chu Zhongyu waved his hand at Lu Guangwei and the others. Originally, he had gathered all the disciples of the Qingyun faction to strengthen the prestige of Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun. After all, he had considered that Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun had only been disciples of the Qingyun peak for a short period of time. Their cultivations would definitely not be too high. Furthermore, the power of laws of the Blue Moon secret realm could not allow Yu Haoran to use the secret transformation technique. Therefore, he hoped to borrow the unity of the Qingyun faction to tell those who wanted to take revenge on Yu Haoran that if they wanted to touch Yu Haoran, they had to consider the Qingyun faction behind him. Chapter 167. Clear Cloud Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Junior brothers, although the Blue Moon secret realm is filled with danger, there are also safe areas. If you encounter an irresistible danger, try your best to retreat to a safe area. Second senior brother Lu Guangwei walked to the side of Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun, then patted them on the shoulder and advised. Second senior brother, don't worry. Zhongjun and I are not reckless people. Yu Haoran assured Lu Guangwei as he nodded his head. Ninth junior brother, be careful. Third senior brother Dong Mingyu and fourth senior brother Cheng Yun only patted their shoulders and did not say much. Ninth junior brother, in this Blue Moon secret realm, help me find a stalk or snatch a stalk of look-setting grass. The higher the grade, the better. I want to give it to someone. He walked to the front of Yu Haoran with a serious expression. Everyone thought that he would give a few words of advice like Lu Guangwei, but no one thought that he would have such an idea. Fifth senior brother, could it be senior sister Wu Qian of the Sunset Peak? Yu Haoran was speechless at Huang Zhonghua's wild imagination. Originally, it was supposed to be a very heartwarming farewell, but with his actions, the heartwarming atmosphere was instantly destroyed. This left Yu Haoran speechless, and he could not help but poke fun at him. How did you know? Hearing Yu Haoran mention Wu Qian of the Sunset Peak, Huang Zhonghua jumped up as if his tail was being stomped and questioned loudly. It's a secret. Yu Haoran pretended to inadvertently glance at Chu Zhongyu and said with an expression that said he would never betray his eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother. Turning his head to look at the puzzled Chu Zhongyu, Huang Zhonghua gritted his teeth and walked towards him. Although Wu Qian's beauty couldn't be compared to Lin Mengyao, she was still a top-notch beauty with a peerless appearance. Moreover, she was also known as the #1 beauty of the Sunset Peak. However, this woman had an arrogant temperament and her standards were extremely high. Ordinary people couldn't enter her eyes. Therefore, Yu Haoran knew that fifth senior brother was just being impulsive. However, he did not stop his fifth senior brother from fantasizing. In her previous life, Wu Qian did not like fifth senior brother because of Qingyun Peak's peaceful atmosphere. But this time, he would let his fifth senior brother successfully get the beauty back. Even if Wu Qian did not choose fifth senior brother in the end, he would definitely make Wu Qian hate him for the rest of her life. Fifth senior brother, not only will I help you bring back the face-fixing flower, but I will also help you find the face-fixing pill in the future so that you can finally get what you want. Ninth junior brother, I won't say many words of thanks. When the time comes, I'll treat you to a drink. After patting Yu Haoran's shoulder, Huang Zhonghua happily retreated. Junior brothers, be careful. 6th Senior Brother Pan Yuhai and 7th Senior Brother Xiao then stepped forward and reminded them. Thank you, Senior Brothers. I will be careful. He nodded and thanked the 2 Senior Brothers for their concern. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will definitely kill them. Compared to the warm reminders of his senior brothers, Lin Xian, who had killed too many people, reminded Yu Haoran when he said goodbye. Junior brother has always followed this idea. Nodding, Yu Haoran and Lin Xian looked at each other. Suddenly, a feeling of mutual appreciation welled up in their hearts. All right, it's about time. Let's go. Chu Zhongyu fiercely glared at Lin Xian and reminded him. Then, he directly led Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun out of the Hidden Moon Pavilion and rushed towards the training peak. The Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Due to the restrictions of the Secret Realm's laws, martial artists who could enter the Secret Realm after opening could not have a cultivation higher than 9th grade martial warrior. Otherwise, they would trigger a backlash from the Secret Realm's laws. This was the cruel result that the 100 Qi Gate, Heart Moon Sect, Meteor Sect, and Ancient Town Sect had obtained after paying the price of over 30 martial masters and martial ancestor elites. Therefore, every time the Blue Moon Secret Realm opened, it was a competition between martial disciples and martial warriors of the various sections. Of course, the 100 Qi Gate, who had the absolute advantage in terms of numbers and strength, would reap the most rewards every time. This also made the Heart Moon Sect and Meteor Sect rather jealous. Under Chu Zhongyu's lead, Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun quickly arrived at the training peak, where they had participated in the entrance test and ranking competition. After landing on the training peak, Yu Haoran discovered that the peak of the training peak was already bustling with noise. It seemed that they had not arrived too early. Yu Shixiao, just as Yu Haoran was sizing up the people on the peak, a disciple wearing a gray robe from the sect line greeted Yu Haoran with a smile. Meng Fanwei. With a glance, Yu Haoran discovered that the person who greeted him was actually Meng Fanwei, who he had chased and challenged back then and had no choice but to fight with an ordinary contestant. He smiled and nodded. See, I told you that I was very familiar with him, and you didn't believe me. After receiving Yu Haoran's kind reply, Meng Fanwei immediately proudly showed off to the people around him. Senior Apprentice Brother Meng, since you are so familiar with Senior Apprentice Brother Yu, after we enter the Blue Moon Secret Realm, can Senior Apprentice Brother Yu take care of us? One of the disciples, who was only a 9th grade martial disciple, asked with a face full of anticipation. TCH, whoever is close to Yu Haoran will die sooner. Before Meng Fanwei could pat his chest and guarantee, a disciple with a face full of arrogance who was at the peak of the 7th grade martial warrior said with disdain. Lian Feng, what do you mean? Although his cultivation was not as high as Yu Haoran's senior brother, Meng Fanwei was not afraid in the slightest when he saw him slander him. Let's not talk about the Achievement Hall and Enforcer Peak that he has a grudge with. I just heard from the Enforcer Peak disciples that Yu Haoran almost emptied the entire Enforcer Peak's treasury 2 days ago. Faced with Meng Fanwei's questioning, Li Yinfeng was not angry. Instead, his expression had a trace of greed and jealousy as he spoke. According to the Enforcer Peak disciples, Yu Haoran was the only one who entered the Enforcer Peak's treasury. Moreover, he stayed for less than 2 hours. To be able to empty the entire treasury in such a short period of time. Do you know what this means? A storage artifact that can store items. Before Meng Fanwei could answer, a disciple with a cultivation at the peak of the 8th grade martial warrior exclaimed from the Achievement Hall. That's right. Not only is it a storage artifact, but it's also a storage artifact with a huge space. Otherwise, how could he empty the entire Enforcer Peak's treasury in such a short period of time? Although the Achievement Hall disciple had guessed that it was a storage artifact, he had not guessed the most fundamental problem. Therefore, Zhao Yunfeng continued to add on. Think about it. Not only does Yu Haoran have a storage artifact that can store items, but it also contains nearly 1,000 years' worth of resources from the Enforcer Peak. With so many tempting treasures, do you think those genius disciples who entered the Blue Moon Secret Realm would let Yu Haoran go? Hearing Zhao Yunfeng's words, Meng Fanwei did not have any thoughts of fighting for the storage artifact. He only vaguely felt that this was a conspiracy that targeted Yu Haoran. Chapter 168. Training Peak. A large storage Dharma artifact that contained the Enforcer Peak's 1,000 years of savings. Zhao Yunfeng couldn't help but feel disappointed that no one was tempted by such a tempting treasure. If he didn't provoke the greed in these people's hearts, they wouldn't have attacked Yu Haoran in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. If Yu Haoran didn't die in the Blue Moon Secret Realm, then he wouldn't be able to complete the mission given to him by the person behind him. If he failed the mission, not only would that person be disappointed, he wouldn't be able to make use of his future development in the sect. Therefore, Zhao Yunfeng was wondering why these people weren't interested in Yu Haoran's storage Dharma artifact that contained a large amount of treasures. When he saw a nearby Enforcer Peak disciple looking at Yu Haoran with fear in his eyes, he immediately understood the reason. Therefore, Zhao Yunfeng lightly coughed. When everyone's attention returned to him, Zhao Yunfeng continued. Perhaps you're thinking that even if Yu Haoran has a tempting storage Dharma artifact, no one would dare to attack him. Because Yu Haoran, who possesses the secret transformation technique, can unleash the strength of a martial king. At this point, Zhao Yunfeng chuckled and continued. But don't forget that the place we're going next is the Blue Moon Secret Realm that restricts one's realm. That is a secret realm that absolutely does not allow anyone to surpass the martial warrior realm. If Yu Haoran dares to use the secret transformation technique in the secret realm, I'm afraid that the secret realm's power of law will completely kill him without the need for anyone to attack. Zhao Yunfeng's further explanation immediately tempted the disciples whose cultivation had reached the peak of third-grade martial warrior and above. As for Meng Fanwei, he looked at Zhao Yunfeng with deep meaning. He had a certain guess about the person behind the scenes. Although he wanted to tell Yu Haoran that someone had used the Blue Moon Secret Realm to set him up, he considered that he was a disciple of the Sect Master, and that person's position in the Sect Master's faction was extraordinary. He couldn't offend him for the time being. Therefore, Meng Fanwei planned to wait until the Blue Moon Secret Realm opened and everyone entered before finding an opportunity to inform Yu Haoran. Chu Zhongyu was well aware of Clear Cloud Peak's unique way of doing things, and their relationship with the majority of the sect factions was mediocre, so he didn't let Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun join the crowd. Instead, he told them to stay away from the crowd for a while before explaining the situation in the Blue Moon Secret Realm to them in detail. After all, other than Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, Qing Yun's 8 disciples had all entered the Blue Moon Secret Realm before. Furthermore, in order to ensure the safety of Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, as well as to maximize their gains in the Mystery Realm, they had exchanged their experiences in the Mystery Realm with each other before they parted ways. Now, Chu Zhongyu was telling his experiences to Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun. Faling, who was also very interested in the Blue Moon Secret Realm, was also attracted by Chu Zhongyu's narration. Therefore, they did not notice that among the crowd at the summit, there were endless discussions about him, as well as the Law Enforcement Peak's treasury and storage Dharma artifacts. Ninth Junior Brother, Little Junior Brother, this is the specific situation of the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Combining the experiences of 8 people, Chu Zhongyu talked for almost 20 minutes before he finally told Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun all the information he knew. After listening to Chu Zhongyu's narration, Yu Haoran realized that his understanding of the Blue Moon Secret Realm was not complete. To be more precise, his understanding was very one-sided. Firstly, the true extent of the Blue Moon Secret Realm was not as small as he knew. The Blue Moon Secret Realm had been opened more than 10 times. Every time, there were about 30 to 40,000 disciples who entered the Secret Realm. So many people were excavating the Secret Realm at the same time, but until now, they had not truly come into contact with the edge of the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Secondly, the number of treasures in the Blue Moon Secret Realm was far more than he had imagined. They were even more precious. This was because in the previous few times when the Secret Realm was opened, there were top-notch treasures that even martial saints would be moved by. In his previous life, Yu Haoran was limited by his cultivation and identity, so he did not know about the top-notch treasures. Lastly, the degree of danger in the Blue Moon Secret Realm was also far beyond his expectations. This was because in the Blue Moon's secret realm, not only were there naturally strange beasts in the secret realm, there were also many naturally formed traps that were more dangerous than the strange beasts. Just as Yuhauran was lamenting the complexity of the Blue Moon's secret realm, 3 people suddenly flew over the trial peak. Raising his head, Yuhauran realized that he knew the 3 people in the sky. These 3 people were the Yun Pavilion's deputy peak master, Gao Feng, Sek's deputy peak master, Jiangming Liu, and Sek's deputy sect master, Zhong Fakin. To be able to appear at the trial peak at this time, there was no need to think too much. Yuhauran also knew that the higher-ups of his sect who were leading the team to the Blue Moon secret realm were the 3 of them. Seeing the 3 people slowly descending, Yuhauran could not help but bitterly laugh. Originally, according to the course of events in his previous life, the leader of the sect higher-ups heading to the Blue Moon secret realm this time should be the Achievement Hall Master, Jia Tongxi. The 2 supporting higher-ups were the Enforcement Peak's Deputy Peak Master, Lin Wei, and the sect's Deputy Peak Master, Jiangming Liu. Unfortunately, Jia Tongxi was killed because of him, and Lin Wei was disheartened because of him, unwilling to participate in anything. As for the Achievement Hall and the Enforcement Peak, because of the appearance of traitors and spies, they lost the opportunity to become the leaders of the Blue Moon secret realm. Slowly landing on the trial peak, Zhong Fakin revealed a gentle smile as she looked at the tens of thousands of sect disciples on the peak. The gentle smile was definitely from the bottom of her heart. This was because she did not expect that the leader of the Blue Moon secret realm's opening this time would be her. Thinking of the various benefits and opportunities of being the leader, Zhong Fakin's gaze involuntarily turned to the dozens of disciples that belonged to her faction. Different from the other factions, the disciples that were arranged to enter the Blue Moon secret realm were both Martial Disciple Realm Odd Job disciples and Martial Warrior Realm Outer Sect disciples. The dozens of disciples that she had arranged for this time were all Martial Warrior Realm disciples. Furthermore, they were all at the peak of the 9th grade Martial Warrior Realm, elite disciples that could break through to the Martial Master Realm at any time. The reason why she had put in so much effort was because in this opening of the Blue Moon secret realm, there was a spirit fruit that would determine whether or not she could be reborn and comprehend the power of the laws in advance. The only goal of these dozens of disciples at the peak of the 9th grade Martial Warrior Realm entering the Blue Moon secret realm was to find that spirit fruit and bring it out safely for her. Originally, she was still worried that Jia Tongxi from the Achievement Hall and Lin Wei from the Enforcement Peak would fight for that spirit fruit. After all, not only was that spirit fruit the size of a watermelon, but it also emitted a spirit fruit fragrance. For strong practitioners with the power of the soul, it had an extremely strong allure. Now, of the 2 people who had the ability to compete with her, one was killed and the other was crippled. This made her feel that her opportunity had come. As long as she could obtain that spirit fruit and pay a certain price, she could ask the pill saint of the Medicine King Valley to help her refine a law enlightenment pill. Then, she could use the law enlightenment pill to comprehend the power of the laws. As long as she could comprehend the power of the laws, even if her cultivation had not broken through to the Martial Saint realm, no one in the 100 Chi Gate would be her match. Chapter 169. Training Peak. However, it was all thanks to Yuhauran's second display of power that she was able to have this opportunity. Thinking of this, Zhong Fakin couldn't help but glance at Yuhauran, only to discover that he was also looking at her. Smiling warmly at Yuhauran, Zhong Fakin shouted loudly, "All disciples with a cultivation of martial warrior and above, leave the training peak immediately. 9th junior brother, little junior brother, take care." Seeing that Zhong Fakin had started to chase people away, Chu Zhongyu warned them and immediately rushed into the sky. After waiting for the martial ancestor realm experts from various factions to send them off, Zhong Fakin nodded at Gao Feng beside her. Then, Gao Feng from the Diyin Pavilion stepped forward and said, "The Blue Moon secret realm that is held once every 5 years is about to open. Perhaps some of the disciples here have heard of the Blue Moon secret realm. But according to the sect's usual practice, I still need to remind you. Although there are many treasures in the Blue Moon's secret realm, there are also many dangers. Not to mention the endless number of strange beasts in the secret realm. Just some natural traps are enough to take your lives. Therefore, I hope that the disciples with low cultivation and unstable wills can formally consider their own problems and choose to withdraw from this Blue Moon secret realm trial. After waiting for nearly 3 minutes, none of the tens of thousands of disciples who were willing to participate in the Blue Moon secret realm were willing to withdraw. Actually, this was very normal. This was because the Blue Moon secret realm was a well-known secret realm in the sect. Furthermore, the secret realm opened every 5 years. Basically, it was also a period of growth for a disciple. Therefore, among the disciples of each faction, nearly 90% of the disciples had participated in the Blue Moon secret realm trial. Regarding the situation in the secret realm, they would inform these junior brothers in advance. Those who were willing to participate in the Blue Moon secret realm trial were confident in their own strength and also wanted to take the opportunity to take a gamble. Seeing that none of the disciples were willing to withdraw, Gao Feng turned to look at Zhong Fakin. After receiving a nod from her, Gao Feng continued, "If that's the case, then let's set off now." As the Blue Moon secret realm was not very far from the 100 Chi Gate, it was only 700 miles away. Among the tens of thousands of disciples present, nearly 70% of them were martial warriors. Therefore, there was no need for them to ride on flying artifacts. They could simply use their martial arts to move forward. Just as the tens of thousands of disciples followed Zhong Fakin and the other 2 upper echelons of the sect to the bottom of the trial peak, they saw over 100 martial arts grandmasters in blue robes waiting at the bottom of the peak. Take good care of these disciples who are participating in the trial. Zhong Fakin ordered the 100 sect experts who had been waiting for a long time. "Yes, sir." The 100 martial ancestor realm experts replied in unison and immediately spread out. Zhongjun, in the first half of the Mystic Realm's opening, everyone's goal is basically to find treasures, so there won't be any conflict for the time being. Therefore, after entering the secret realm, you and I will temporarily separate. On the 6th day after the secret realm opens, you and I will meet at the mountain spring. Due to Qingyun Peak's special position in the sect and the fact that Yu Haoren and Wu Jingjun were not the kind of people who like to be lively, the 2 of them followed closely behind the group. Considering that after entering the Blue Moon secret realm, he would need to fight for the few spiritual herbs that he had heard of in his previous life. He didn't want to delay Wu Zhongjuan's trial for the time being, so they agreed in advance. "Yu Shixiang, is this okay?" Considering Yu Haoren's real situation, Wu Zhongjun asked worriedly. "Don't worry. Although I can't use the Yuan Li in my Dantian for the time being, with just the strength of my physical body, as long as I don't meet those people whose talent and potential are not inferior to yours and mine, there won't be any problems with safety." Yu Haoren comforted. All right. Since Yu Haoren had already made up his mind, Wu Zhongjun knew that even if he tried to persuade him, it would be useless. However, considering Yu Haoren's own safety, Wu Zhongjun still exhorted him. "Yu Shixiang, after entering the secret realm, my route will follow the route that 8th senior brother took for his trial. If you encounter danger that you can't resist, it's best that you come to me in time." "Yes, I know." Yu Haoren nodded his head and suddenly felt unreconciled. Since his rebirth, he had always been strategizing and deciding victory from 1,000 miles away. When had he ever been so passive like he was now? Therefore, he made up his mind that after obtaining the few spiritual herbs that he had set, he must find a spiritual herb that could restore his Dantian in the secret realm. There was no need for a high-grade spiritual herb. He only needed to eliminate the collapse of his Dantian. At that time, with the strength of his physical body, no one in the entire secret realm would be his opponent. 700 miles didn't seem short, but with the support of Yuan Li, the group didn't spend too much time and successfully arrived in front of a beautiful valley. Just as the people from the 100 Chi Gate arrived in front of the valley, there were already 3 groups of more than 10,000 people gathered outside the valley. And these three groups were the three third-rate sects that were participating in the trial of the secret realm. I didn't expect that the leader of the trial of the Blue Moon secret realm this time would be Deputy Sect Leader Zhong. In the west side of the valley, there was a group of more than 4,000 people. A middle-aged man of about 40 years old hurriedly greeted them after seeing the people from the 100 Chi Gate. Seeing the middle-aged man who took the initiative to greet her, Zhong Fakin chuckled and replied with a very gentle expression. I also didn't expect that the leader of the ancient town sect for this trial of the secret realm would be Deputy Sect Leader Zhao Yuan. Brother Gao, Brother Jiang. Due to the special relationship between the ancient town sect and the 100 Chi Gate, the upper echelons of the two sects were very familiar with each other. Therefore, after greeting Zhong Fakin, they greeted Gao Feng, Jiang Minglu, and Zhao Yuan with the same enthusiasm. Brother Zhao, Gao Feng and Jiang Minglu also didn't put on airs and enthusiastically returned the greeting. Sai, raising his head and looking at the group from the 100 Chi Gate that was participating in the trial of the secret realm, Zhao Yuan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This was the difference between a third-rate sect and a second-rate sect. For the resources in the Blue Moon secret realm this time, the ancient town sect had sent out more than 4,000 disciples, which accounted for almost 70% of the low-end disciples in the entire sect. Moreover, there were many martial disciples and early-stage martial warriors. On the other hand, the 100 Chi Gate, it seemed that there were more than 10,000 people, but in fact it was only one-third of the low-end disciples in the 100 Chi Gate. Moreover, among the 10,000 people, more than 70% of the disciples were in the martial warrior realm. There were even close to 500 disciples who were at the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior realm. This huge difference in strength made Zhao Yuan feel powerless. Deputy Sect Leader Zhong, Deputy Peak Master Gao, Deputy Peak Master Jiang. Just as Zhao Yuan was lamenting the huge difference between a third-rate sect and a second-rate sect, the leaders of the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect also came forward to greet them. Chapter 170. Actually, this was very normal. When they first learned that there was a natural secret realm hidden in the valley, the 100 Feet sect directly sent 3 experts of the martial royal realm to the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect in order to obtain the right to participate in the development of the secret realm and gain the right to lead the development of the secret realm. Faced with this kind of obvious humiliation, it would be strange if the people from the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect were happy. If it were not for their lack of strength, they would have fallen out with them long ago. Zhong Fakin did not care about this. As long as she got her hands on the benefits, who cared about other people's attitude? However, Zhong Fakin was also quite shocked by the relationship between the ancient town sect and the 100 Chi Gate. No one would have thought that the ancient town sect leader, Zhao Ji, and the 100 Chi Gate sect leader, Zhao Ji, who had the same name, were actually cousins of the imperial family. Otherwise, the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect would never have thought of joining forces with the ancient town sect. After all, within the sphere of influence controlled by the 100 Chi Gate, there were more than 10 third-rate sections. There were also 5 or 6 sects whose strength did not lose out to the ancient town sect. Deputy Sect Leader Zhong, it's almost time. Let's begin. Zhao Yuan suggested after Zhong Fakin had greeted the leaders of the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect. All right, let's begin. Zhong Fakin agreed with a nod. Then Jiang Minglu, who was from the sect leader's faction, flew directly into the valley. As for Zhao Ji, the leaders of the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect, they also flew into the valley. It was not very long, only about 10 minutes or so. Along with the deafening roar that came from the valley, the originally ordinary spiritual energy in the valley suddenly surged with extremely rich spiritual energy. Moreover, the spiritual energy that surged from the valley was somewhat different from the spiritual energy outside. Not only was the quality purer, but the spiritual energy also contained a faint fragrance of spiritual herbs. Disciples of the 100 Chi Gate, listen up, enter the valley. Zhong Fakin ordered the tens of thousands of disciples behind her, just as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged from the valley. After following the large group into the valley, Yuhaoran did not observe the environment of the valley like the other disciples. Instead, he frowned, and a trace of brutality flashed through his eyes from time to time. Because just as he followed the crowd into the valley, Lin Mingyao, who had purposely lagged behind, suddenly gave him a note. The note was very small, and there weren't many words. There were only 5 words. These 5 words were situation, possession, treasure, weapon, and greed. If other people saw these words, they might not understand the meaning of these words. However, Howard only needed a glance to understand the meaning of these words. Someone had specially set up a trap for him in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm trial this time. It was a trap that targeted the entire law enforcement peak's treasury that he had on him. It was a trap that used treasures and storage artifacts to attract the greed of countless people. In fact, ever since Yuhaoran emptied the entire law enforcement peak's treasury, he knew that the secret of the storage Dharma artifacts could not be kept. The reason why he had exposed it was because he was not afraid of others finding out. After all, considering that he had the means to transform into a martial royal realm exotic beast, even those who wanted to steal the storage Dharma artifacts and the law enforcement peak's treasury would have to consider whether they could withstand his means and revenge. However, due to the special environment of the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, the use of the secret transformation technique would be restricted. In addition, he had only joined the 100 Chi Gate for a short period of time. Under normal circumstances, his cultivation would not be too high. If someone had used this as bait to set up a trap for him, it would not be a complicated matter. However, due to the numerous treasures in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, 10 days was not enough for the disciples who had entered the Mystery Realm to work. Therefore, most people would not think of dealing with him. Therefore, the person who wanted to deal with him and incite the greed of the disciples in the Mystery Realm must have a grudge against him and was familiar with the situation. Thinking of this, Yuhaoran had already guessed who the mastermind behind the plot was. Zhao Xinyu. He thought of how Zhao Xinyu had dared to use the storage Dharma artifacts that contained the law enforcement peak's treasury as bait and the special restrictions of the Blue Moon Mystery Realm as a chessboard to set up a death trap for him. Apart from being furious, Yuhaoran's heart was filled with sorrow. Back then, when he had handed his Shuda over to Zhao Ji, he had 2 thoughts. This was because by searching his Shuda's memories, Zhao Ji would definitely know who the mastermind behind the ambush was. If Zhao Ji could make a certain gesture, even if it was just a symbolic punishment for Zhao Xinyu, Yuhaoran would feel a little better. Not only would he take the initiative to delay his revenge on Zhao Xinyu, he would also do his best to eliminate some hidden dangers in the sect to ensure that the 100 Chi Gate would not be destroyed in a few years' time. If Zhao Ji did not mention it, then in the following period of time, as long as he had the chance to get rid of Zhao Xinyu, he would not show any mercy to Zhao Ji. Now, not only did Zhao Ji not mention it, but he also allowed Zhao Xinyu to set up a trap for him. At this moment, Yuhaoran was not only filled with murderous intent towards Zhao Xinyu, but also toward Zhao Ji and those who dare to peep at his storage Dharma artifacts. The moment he stepped into the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, Yuhaoran made a decision. No matter who it was, there was only one outcome for those who dared to peep at his storage Dharma artifacts, and that was death. Just as he made the decision in his heart, a ray of light shot out from the originally dim passageway as Yuhaoran entered the Mystery Realm. Then, a rich spiritual energy that did not lose out to the sweep spell peak rushed towards him. Such a rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth was undoubtedly a baptism of opportunity for many disciples who had entered the Mystery Realm. Many disciples who had been unable to break through their current realm due to the lack of resources directly sat down cross-legged under the stimulation of the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Then they used the rich spiritual energy to break through. Turning his head to look at his surroundings, Yuhaoran whispered a few words to Wu Jingjun and secretly handed him a bottle of elixir. Then he chose a direction and quickly left. Not long after Yuhaoran left, more than 10 disciples from the sect and the Hall of Merit hurriedly followed him. Not long after the disciples from the sect and the Hall of Merit left, among the more than 30 factions of the 100 Feet Gate, excluding a few of the weaker factions and Zhong Faken's faction, who had a special mission, there were almost 1,000 disciples who followed them at different times. Yu Xiang, I believe that you can understand the note that I gave you. I hope that you can escape this calamity. Seeing that there was an endless stream of people chasing after Yu Haoran, Lin Mingyao's eyes revealed a trace of worry. Actually, when she heard people talking about Yu Haoran emptying the entire Enforcer Peak's treasury at the Trial Peak, she knew that something was amiss. When she heard that someone was deliberately weakening Yu Haoran's deterrence, she knew that someone was specifically targeting Yu Haoran. Although she wanted to warn Yu Haoran and persuade him to temporarily give up on this trial in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, she could vaguely feel that someone was watching her. Moreover, the person who was watching her had the ability to subdue her in an instant. Therefore, she had been waiting for an opportunity to warn Yu Haoran. Although she had successfully warned Yu Haoran in the end, he had also fallen into the opponent's trap. Next, whether he lived or died would depend on Yu Haoran's own fate. Chapter 171. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Calmly lying on the ground with his eyes closed, Meng Fanwei would never have thought that the moment he entered the secret realm, a senior brother who usually treated him well would sneak attack him from behind. In order to ensure his own safety, he had taken a life-saving elixir that he had accidentally obtained before entering the secret realm, causing the other party to think that he was dead for sure and had already left the scene. However, Meng Fanwei knew that he was still in extreme danger. That was because the life-saving pill could only temporarily prolong his life. It was unable to heal the heavy injuries his body suffered from the sneak attack. Furthermore, there were countless strange beasts in the Blue Moon's secret realm. If he continued to lie there in such a state, he would be discovered and eaten by the strange beasts sooner or later. However, in his current state, not to mention getting up and leaving, it was difficult for him to even move a finger. Just as Meng Fanwei was waiting for death, he suddenly heard light footsteps. He forced his eyelids open, and a familiar figure quickly entered his vision. Soon after, that familiar figure fed him a cherry-sized pill and said, "Don't worry, it's fine. This is a first-grade 8th level healing pill. Yu Xiang specially asked me to give it to you before he left." Yu Xiang said that with Zhao Sinyu's sinister and vicious nature, he would definitely eliminate some people who were familiar with him in order to ensure that his plan would proceed smoothly. And among those people, you are definitely the first. Relying on the medicinal effects of the first-grade 8th level pill, his heavily injured body quickly recovered. By the time the person who fed him the pill finished speaking, Meng Fanwei was already barely able to speak. Junior brother Yu's foresight is indeed godly. Meng Fanwei sighed. However, when he thought of the conversation between the senior brothers of the sect while he was playing dead, Meng Fanwei hurriedly reminded him. Junior brother Wu, although Yu Xiang already knew of Zhao Sinyu's plan, I'm afraid he doesn't know that in order to deal with him, not only did the sect arrange 30-peak 9th-grade martial warrior opponents, there were also 5-peak 1st-grade martial master experts who have the ability to challenge those above their ranks. Senior brother Meng, there's still a few healing pills here. They should be able to help you completely recover. I'm going to help you, Xiang, now. After hearing Meng Fanwei's reminder, Wu Jingjun immediately became anxious. Although he didn't know how strong Yu Haoran, who had the body of a peak 9th-grade martial warrior, was based on his own strength, he could at most deal with an opponent at the peak of 1st-grade martial master. And this time, there were 5-peak 1st-grade martial master experts among Yu Haoran's opponents. If these 5-peak 1st-grade martial master experts joined forces, Yu Haoran would definitely not be their match. Therefore, the anxious Wu Jingjun directly threw down a few healing pills and chased after Yu Haoran in the direction that he left. Yu Xiang, I hope you're lucky enough to escape from Zhao Sinyu's trap. After praying for Yu Haoran, Meng Fanwei's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Soon after, he found a quiet and safe place and used the healing pills left behind by Wu Jingjun to continue recovering from his injuries. After smashing his opponent's head with a soaring fist, Yuhaoran couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the dozens of corpses lying around, the tyrannical aura in Yuhaoran's eyes became even more intense. Although he knew that wealth moved people's hearts and that he had all the treasures in the law enforcement peak storage tool on him, it would definitely arouse the greed of many people. However, he didn't expect that even some ninth-grade martial disciple ants would dare set their sights on him. Looking at the corpses that either had their heads smashed or were torn in half, Yuhaoran hoped that the miserable state of these corpses would cause some people to be afraid. Raising his head to look behind him, Yuhaoran could faintly hear the sound of footsteps. He knew that the third wave of people who had their eyes on him was about to arrive. Although he wasn't afraid of these people, his purpose in entering the Blue Moon's secret realm was to find the few spirit herbs that would move even a martial monarch. How could he waste his time and energy on these people? Therefore, Yuhaoran temporarily restrained his aura. Then, relying on the strength of his physical body, he continued to move towards the depths of the secret realm at a speed not inferior to the peak of the initial stage. After seeing the miserable state of the scene, some of the disciples who had not experienced much killing could not help but vomit. Even some of the experts who had been on the battlefield for a long time had grave expressions. According to the information I've gathered, before Yuhaoran joined the sect, his cultivation was only at the peak of a ninth-grade martial disciple. It has only been a little more than a month since he joined the sect. Even if he has the talent and potential of a peerless genius, in such a short period of time, his cultivation would definitely not exceed the peak of the third-grade martial disciple. Among the people chasing, a disciple from the sect master's faction, whose cultivation was already at the early stage of the seventh-grade martial disciple, made a guess. I think that the reason why Yuhaoran was able to kill these people was because he used a secret technique that overdrew his potential and life force. Everyone knows that all secret techniques that overdraw one's potential and life force have a certain side effect. Therefore, I'm guessing that Yuhaoran must be hiding somewhere not far away, recuperating. The guesses of the sect master's disciples immediately roused the spirits of the disciples who were thinking of retreating. Soon after, they scattered in all directions, searching for the hidden Yuhaoran. And Yuhaoran, who they thought was hiding, was actually hiding in a bush. However, the reason he was hiding was not because he was being chased by these people, but because there was a herd of over 50 redwood boars in front of him. Their ranks range from the first grade of the 10th level to the peak of the 9th level of the 9th level. Although the redwood boar was the most common exotic beast, and the strength it possessed was about the same as the strength of a human cultivator at their normal realm. However, in this herd of redwood boars, there was a red redwood boar that was several times stronger than the average redwood boar. More importantly, Yuhaoran could faintly feel a trace of fatal danger from that red redwood boar. Since there was danger, he could just choose to go around it. However, in the middle of the herd of redwood boars, there were several dozen meridian grass that were shaped like human meridians. Of course, if it were just ordinary meridian grass, it wouldn't be a pity to give up temporarily. However, the several dozen meridian grass in the herd of redwood boars were all over 40 centimeters long. In other words, these meridian grass were all spiritual herbs around the 7th level. Meridian grass could strengthen the meridians and increase one's potential. However, if the meridian grass grade exceeded the 7th level, not only could it strengthen the meridians, it could also further strengthen the dantian. Originally, due to the backlash from the secret transformation technique, his dantian was on the verge of collapse, so he was unable to mobilize the origin power within his dantian. However, meridian grass that exceeded the 7th level could further strengthen the meridians and strengthen the dantian. As long as his dantian could be strengthened, the danger of collapse would be eliminated. In that case, he could use spiritual energy and spiritual herbs to further strengthen his dantian and recover from his injuries. Chapter 172. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Through the gaps in the grass, Yuhaoran discovered that the herd of redwood boars in front of him had a total of 53 redwood boars. Among them, There were 30 10th order redwood boars, 10 ninth order redwood boars from the 1st to the 3rd order, 7 ninth order redwood boars from the 4th to the 6th order, and 5 ninth order redwood boars from the 7th to the 9th order. Only the redwood boar that was entirely red in color, he was actually unable to determine its exact grade. Fowling, use your spiritual sense to help me check that redwood boar. See what tier it is. Since he was unable to distinguish it with his naked eye, Howren could only ask Fowling for help. Howren, the laws of this secret realm are very strange. The suppression of realms is very strong. With my current strength, my spiritual sense is actually unable to extend a meter. Fowling said with a frown in his sea of consciousness. Unable to extend a meter. Hearing that Fowling's spiritual sense couldn't even extend a meter, Howren immediately felt very disappointed. However, his disappointment didn't last for long. Because his spiritual sense was being suppressed through Fowling, he recalled the secret realm suppression of realms and tiers. In other words, no matter how talented this redwood boar was, its highest tier would only be at the peak of tier 9. As long as its tier didn't exceed tier 8, it wouldn't have the strength to threaten him. Thinking of this, Howren planned to get up and use brute force to kill these redwood boars in front of him. However, just as he was about to get up, his superhuman hearing allowed him to faintly hear the sound of disorderly footsteps behind him. Judging from the sound of the disorderly footsteps, there were many people constantly approaching. He didn't have 100% confidence in killing the redwood boar, whose strength he didn't know. If, in the process of making a move, those people who were constantly approaching were the ones who were chasing after him, then it was very likely that he would fall into a situation where he was attacked from both sides. Therefore, Howren hurriedly hid himself even deeper. Firstly, it was to avoid being discovered by that group of people who had suddenly appeared. Secondly, he wanted to use the sudden appearance of this group of people to test the true strength of the redwood boar. It didn't take long. Just as Howren finished concealing himself, a group of over 30 people appeared in front of the herd of redwood boars. Through the gaps in the grass, Howren discovered that the group of people who had suddenly appeared were still disciples from the 100-Chi Gate. Moreover, from the moment these people appeared, they kept looking around. He knew that they were looking for him, or to be more precise, they were looking for his storage device that contained countless treasures. After knowing the origin and purpose of these people, Howren revealed a cold smile on his face. Since you want my Howren's life, then don't blame me for sitting on a mountain and watching the tigers fight. In the end, I'll be the fisherman who reaps the benefits. Senior Brother Wu, look, isn't that a 7th grade meridian grass? Among the people searching for Howren, one of the disciples just happened to see several dozen stalks of meridian grass that were over 40 centimeters long in the middle of the herd of redwood boars. That's right, it is a 7th grade meridian grass. Senior Brother Wu, who was already at the peak of 8th grade martial warrior, said with an excited expression, "A 7th grade meridian grass. If brought to the achievement hall, one stalk of meridian grass can be exchanged for at least 100 SEC contribution points and 10,000 9th grade spirit stones. If brought to the black market, although it can't be exchanged for SEC contribution points, one stalk of meridian grass can be exchanged for at least 30,000 9th grade spirit stones. Senior Brother Wu, I just checked carefully. There are a total of 76 stalks of meridian grass. If brought to the black market, wouldn't it be exchanged for 280,000 9th grade spirit stones?" The disciple who discovered the meridian grass at the beginning was stunned by the amount of spirit stones after careful calculation. As for the other 30 or so disciples, they were also stunned by the enormous amount of spirit stones. Fellow junior brothers, if you believe your senior brother, then give these meridian grass to me. I have friends in the black market who can raise the price of the meridian grass. If that's the case, each person can get about 70,000 9th grade spirit stones. Only the disciple surnamed Wu was not shocked. Because he was familiar with the black market, he knew that the amount of meridian grass on the market was already very small. Those that could reach the 7th grade were even rarer. For someone to be able to take out 76 stalks of meridian grass, they could basically trade with the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion that controlled the black market. According to the style of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, 76 stalks of 7th grade meridian grass could be exchanged for at least 3 million 9th grade spirit stones. Even if the 2,300,000 spirit stones were distributed to the disciples, he could still get 700,000 9th grade spirit stones alone. With 700,000 9th grade spirit stones, not only could he buy a large amount of pills that could increase his cultivation, but he could also buy pills that could increase his talent and potential. If his talent and potential were to increase, and his cultivation broke through to the martial master realm, then his status and identity in the sect master's faction would be greatly increased. All right, I believe in Senior Brother Wu. Senior Brother Wu is doing this for our own good. None of the 30 or so disciples present objected to Senior Brother Wu's suggestion. They all raised their hands in agreement. As for Yu Haoran, who was hiding in the bushes, he could not help but shake his head. Not to mention that the meridian grass had yet to be harvested. They had not even driven away the redwood boars around the meridian grass, and had already started to distribute the spoils of war. These people were looking down on the redwood boar too much. All right, it's settled then. Seeing that everyone agreed to his suggestion, Senior Brother Wu was very satisfied. Then he waved his hand at the redwood boars in front of him and commanded with satisfaction, "Kill all these redwood boars for me. Kill! Kill!" More than 30 disciples displayed their proud martial skills one after another and charged towards the redwood boars with all their might. Seeing the crowd charging towards them, the redwood boars and the redwood boars' reaction was somewhat unexpected. This was because even the lowest-ranked redwood boar did not reveal a trace of panic when it saw the crowd charging towards them. Just as the few disciples at the front were about to engage in close combat with the redwood boars, a red shadow streaked past the few disciples at lightning speed. Then, the few disciples at the front had their upper bodies remain motionless, but their lower bodies were pushed several meters forward before heavily falling to the ground. Yu Haoran, who was hiding in the bushes, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw the speed of the redwood boar. This was because he realized that the speed that the redwood boar had displayed when it had killed those few martial artists had clearly surpassed the great success stage of Gale Steps. With such astonishing speed, not to mention that he could not use the origin power in his Dantian. Even if he could, he would not be able to dodge the redwood boar's attack, unless he had the divine perception to detect everything in advance. Chapter 173. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. The sudden appearance of the redwood boar, as well as the deaths of their fellow disciples, caused the disciples following closely behind to abruptly stop in their tracks. This was because they didn't expect that the redwood boar, which was the weakest and most common type of strange beast, which was basically a delicacy for low-end martial artists, would actually have such a frightening speed. Therefore, in addition to their shock, they couldn't help but cast their gazes towards the disciple surnamed Wu. This was because his cultivation was the highest and his strength was the strongest. It seemed that only he could deal with that redwood boar. Facing the gazes of the crowd, the disciple surnamed Wu's face was rather gloomy. This was because from the speed that the redwood boar had displayed when it killed those disciples, he knew that he wouldn't be able to dodge the redwood boar's attack. At this very moment, he had the intention to retreat. However, seeing the 76 stalks of meridian grass not far away, he was unwilling to retreat. 3 million 9th stage, 9th grade spirit stones was an enormous sum of spirit stones. These spirit stones were enough to change his fate and allow him to reach the pinnacle of his life. His gaze swept across the remaining 20 or so fellow disciples, and a trace of a sinister plan immediately welled up in his heart. Everyone, listen up. This redwood boar's strength isn't strong. It's just that its attack speed is fast, and we can't catch its figure. Next, we will surround it and restrict its speed. As long as we surround it, it will be like an oriole in a cage. It won't be able to escape or fly, even if it wants to. Senior Martial Brother Wu is right. As long as we restrict its speed, with the redwood boar's strength, it will be at our disposal. Moreover, That's a meridian grass worth over 2 million ninth stage, ninth grade spirit stones. Are you willing to give it up for nothing? A disciple who is also unwilling to give up on the meridian grass loudly echoed. All right, for the sake of 70,000 ninth stage, ninth grade spirit stones, we'll stake it all. Kill. Wealth moved people's hearts. The reason why these people gave up looking for treasures and went after Yuharan was because they wanted to get their hands on his storage Dharma artifact and the spirit stones and elixirs in it. If they could obtain the 76 strands of meridian grass, they wouldn't need to continue chasing after Yuharan, nor would they need to take the risk to search for the elixir. They only needed to wait for the Blue Moon secret realm to close, and then let the secret realm send them out. Courting death. Fowling couldn't help but sneer when he saw those people starting to surround the red redwood boar. Fowling, you know the origin of the red redwood boar. The fact that Fowling was able to mock the redwood boar at this time meant that he had already seen through the origins of the redwood boar and was also aware of its true strength. That's right. Fowling nodded and explained. Yuharan, this red redwood boar wasn't born like this. It's just that it consumed a spiritual flower called the blood lotus, causing its bloodline to revert to its ancient state. Moreover, the degree of its bloodline reverting to its ancient state has already reached 30%. Fowling, could it be that in the ancient times, there was an earth-shattering powerhouse among the pig-type Yao cultivators? It was just that the reverting of its bloodline had caused the red redwood boar to mutate. Fowling's explanation was somewhat hard for Yuharan to accept. After all, in the profound sky continent, the redwood boar was basically an existence that was a delicacy on the dining table. Even if its bloodline reverted to its ancient state, how much could its strength increase? You're right. In the ancient times, the redwood boar was also an existence that was used as food. There weren't many powerful powerhouses that appeared. However, in the recent ancient times, an emperor-level redwood boar demon appeared. At this point, Fowling couldn't help but sigh. And then he continued, Yuharan, do you still remember the As I Wish rod from a few days ago on the 5th floor of the Enforcer Peak's treasury? Of course I remember. Yuharan nodded, indicating that he remembered. After all, the As I Wish rod was the life artifact of a peak emperor-level monkey-type Yao beast. Moreover, the As I Wish rod was still being nourished in the blood essence of the Vajra monkey. How could he forget? In the recent ancient times, the Pig Emperor and the Monkey Emperor were sworn brothers. What? The Pig Emperor and the Monkey Emperor were actually sworn brothers? After hearing this secret from the recent ancient times, Yuharan was extremely shocked. That's right. This red redwood boar before us is using the blood lotus of the top spiritual flower to continuously evolve its bloodline toward the Pig Emperor. If it weren't for the restriction of the secret realm, this red redwood boar's grade would have most likely already advanced to the 6th stage. Who? After hearing Fowling's explanation, Yuharan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After that, he planned to leave quietly. Not to mention the red redwood boar's despair-inducing speed. Just based on its ability to advance to the 6th stage, Yuharan knew that he was definitely not its opponent. Since he wasn't its opponent, continuing to stay here would be a waste of time. He might as well leave early and search for the spiritual herbs in his target. Yuharan, those channel grass are spiritual herbs that can allow your dantian to recover. Don't tell me you're going to give up just like that. Fowling asked when he saw that Yuharan was planning to leave quietly. What can I do if I don't leave? Yuharan replied gloomily. Actually, among all the people who entered the Blue Moon secret realm, only you were able to take a portion of the channel grass under the nose of that red redwood boar. Fowling didn't hide it when he heard the gloominess in Yuharan's tone. How do I take it? He actually had the opportunity to take a portion of the channel grass. Fowling's words immediately made Yuharan's spirits rise. In a moment, you'll separate a portion of the Vajra monkey's blood essence and merge it into the As I Will rod. Relying on the As I Will rod to emit the aura of the Monkey Emperor, that red redwood boar will definitely let you take a portion of the channel grass. All right, I'll try. Fowling's method sounded a bit absurd, but considering the relationship between the Monkey Emperor and the Pig Emperor, Yuhaoran felt that this method had a chance of success. Since there was a way to take the channel grass, Yuhaoran wasn't in a hurry to leave. He continued to observe the battle between the red redwood boar and the sect master's disciples through the gaps in the grass. However, when he observed through the gaps in the grass, he discovered that the sect disciples who had surrounded it were all dead. Moreover, everyone had died in the same way. They were all cut into two from the waist. Huff, huff. After killing all the martial artists who had surrounded it, the red redwood boar called out to the herd of pigs. Subsequently, over 50 ordinary redwood boars began to devour the corpses of the martial artists who had been killed. Regarding this, Yuhaoran chose to turn a blind eye to it. Subsequently, he separated a portion of the Vajra monkey's blood essence and forcefully expelled the As-I-Will rod from his blood essence and meridians. After he had merged the separated portion of the Vajra monkey's blood essence into the As-I-Will rod, the originally pitch-black rod suddenly turned into a sparkling golden rod. Chapter 174. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Perhaps it was because the Monkey Emperor's aura emitted by the dew, As-I-Wish rod, had a natural deterrent effect on the redwood boar. The ordinary redwood boar, which was originally devouring the corpses of martial artists, couldn't help but prostrate itself on the ground with a respectful look. As for the red redwood boar, although it didn't prostrate itself, a complicated look of respect flashed through its eyes. I know you can understand my words. I don't have any ill intentions. I only want to use a few strands of channel grass to repair my damaged dantian. Pointing at the channel grass on the right, Yuhaoran continued, After I take the channel grass, I will leave immediately. Hoochie, hoochie. Glancing at the channel grass on the left, then glancing at the dew As-I-Wish rod in Yuhaoran's hand that emitted the Monkey Emperor's aura, the red redwood boar whimpered a few times and retreated a few steps. There's hope. Seeing the red redwood boar take the initiative to retreat, Yuhaoran was delighted. Soon after, he slowly walked to the side of the channel grass and bent down to take 9 strands of channel grass. Then he straightened his body and thanked the red redwood boar. Brother Boar, many thanks. Brother Boar, I, Yuhaoran, will remember your kindness in gifting me the grass today. In the future, if Brother Boar has any requests, feel free to look for me. After leaving behind an insincere promise, Yuhaoran turned and left. However, what Yuhaoran didn't know was that when he turned and left, the red redwood boar's eyes actually revealed a trace of excitement and thought. When he didn't leave the red redwood boar's line of sight, Yuhaoran walked forward at a normal pace. But when he completely left the red redwood boar's line of sight, Yuhaoran immediately put away the dew As-I-Wish rod and used the extreme speed of his body to quickly enter the secret realm. After going several kilometers into the secret realm and making sure that the red redwood boar couldn't follow him, Yuhaoran slowly stopped his footsteps. Yuhaoran, actually, you don't have to be so nervous. As long as you have the stick in your hand, that red redwood boar definitely won't attack you. Seeing Yuhaoran's cautious actions, Thaling couldn't help but advise. It's better to be safe than sorry. There are some things you have to pay attention to. After refuting Thaling, Yuhaoran observed the surrounding environment and finally found a tree that was not too thick in diameter but had lush leaves. He then dodged into the lush leaves. For the next period of time, he was going to use the 9 stalks of meridian grass to strengthen his meridians and increase his potential. At the same time, he was going to use the meridian grass to strengthen his dantian so that he could use the essence force in his dantian as soon as possible. The energy contained within the 7th grade meridian grass was extremely powerful when it came to strengthening one's meridians and dantian. Due to the fact that his dantian was about to collapse, Yuhaoran did not take the risk of directly consuming an entire stalk of meridian grass. Retrieving a zone-grade low-tier sword from his storage ear, he divided the stalk of meridian grass into 5 sections and consumed them one by one. As the special energy contained within the meridian grass continuously strengthened his meridians and dantian, Yuhaoran gradually felt that his dantian, which was on the verge of collapse, was gradually stabilizing. After consuming an entire stalk of meridian grass, Not only did the strength of his meridians increase by nearly 2 times, his dantian had basically stabilized as well. However, even though it was stabilized, it was still not solid enough. For the time being, he was still unable to use the essence force in his dantian. Therefore, Yuhaoran continued to consume the meridian grass. Just as Yuhaoran continued to consume the meridian grass to heal the injuries in his dantian, Wu Zhijun, who was covered in blood, rashly charged into the redwood boar herd's territory like an injured wild beast. Perhaps it was because of his bloodthirsty physique, but it gave him an extraordinary sense of danger and killing intent. Although the 50 or so redwood boars in front of him were the most common of exotic beasts, the red redwood boar in the middle of the herd gave him a feeling of fatal danger. Believing in his intuition, Wu Zhangjun swept his gaze over his surroundings and finally hid in the place where Yuhaoran had previously hidden. Just as Wu Zhangjun finished hiding, a group of 70 or so people appeared in the redwood boar's territory. Immediately investigate carefully. I don't believe that Brat can escape from our heavenly net. Although his cultivation was only at the peak of 9th grade martial warrior, the aura emitted from his body clearly surpassed that of a martial warrior. He ordered with a gloomy expression. Yes, the 70 or so people at the scene responded in unison. Senior Liu, look over there. What is that? A disciple who was slightly closer to the redwood boar herd saw the 67 stalks of meridian grass and immediately called out to the expert who had just given the order. 7th grade meridian grass. Seeing the 67 stalks of meridian grass among the redwood boar herd, the expert surnamed Liu's eyes lit up and his face revealed a greedy expression. Even the 8th grade martial warrior surnamed Wu knew that a stalk of meridian grass could be exchanged for 30,000 9th grade and 9th grade spirit stones on the black market. Thus, as the expert surnamed Liu, who was stronger, had a higher status, and had more experience, he was even more clear on the value of a 7th grade meridian grass. You guys continue to look for Wu Zhangjuan's whereabouts. The expert surnamed Liu commanded the disciples who were looking at the meridian grass. Then he directly used his movement martial skill and rushed towards the redwood boar herd, rushing towards the meridian grass. Looking at his posture, it was obvious that he wanted to take all 67 stalks of meridian grass for himself. Although the surrounding disciples were unwilling to accept this, they were not as strong as the senior surnamed Liu, so they could only obediently accept it. Using his movement martial skill at the peak of the initial stage, he quickly approached the redwood boar herd. However, just as the expert surnamed Liu approached the redwood boar herd, a red shadow instantly flashed past. When the red shadow landed, the expert surnamed Liu's lower body directly rushed towards the meridian grass, but his upper body stopped outside the redwood boar herd. Seeing that the strongest senior brother Liu had been directly killed by the redwood boar, a disciple not far from the redwood boar herd could not help but scream in fear. Then, he immediately turned around and fled the scene. However, just as he passed by the bush where Wu Zhangjun was hiding, a fist covered in blood heavily smashed into his back. He did not even have time to scream before he fell to the ground, dead. Senior brother Liu is dead. No one is a match for Wu Zhangjun. Quickly retreat. Seeing Wu Zhangjun suddenly appear, a disciple who had fought with Wu Zhangjun before and had almost lost his life shouted loudly. Then, the disciples at the scene used their movement martial skills and began to flee in all directions. Facing the disciples who were fleeing in all directions, neither Wu Zhangjun nor the redwood boar chased after them. Wu Zhangjun did not chase after them because his current injuries were very serious, and he needed to find a secluded place to heal. For the time being, he did not have the strength to chase after them. The redwood boar did not chase after them because it was too lazy to do so. It disdained to do so. Chapter 175. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Although his understanding of medicinal herbs was far from being as proficient as Yuhaoran, Wu Zhangjun was very familiar with the medicinal effects of the channel grass, as he had consumed the low-grade channel grass before. He knew that the channel grass was helpful in strengthening the dantian. Thinking of how Yu Haoran's Dantian was on the verge of collapse due to the backlash from the secret transformation technique, he didn't dare to mobilize the Yuan power within his Dantian. The level 7 channel grass was just right to alleviate the injuries caused by the collapse of the Dantian. Therefore, Wu Zhengjun walked out of his hiding place and directly walked towards the red redwood boar. Senior, I don't know if you can understand Junior's words. Right now, Junior has a request. When he was less than 5 meters away from the red redwood boar, Wu Zhengjun stopped and respectfully said, Junior has a senior whose Dantian has been damaged and needs the channel grass to heal. I wonder if Senior can allow Junior to take a portion of the channel grass. After saying this, Wu Zhengjun stared intently at the red redwood boar, hoping that it could give him a satisfactory answer. Otherwise, he would choose to overdraft a portion of his potential and forcefully take a portion of the channel grass from the red redwood boar. Hoochie hoochie. After hearing Wu Zhengjun's request, a trace of human-like emotion appeared in the red redwood boar's eyes. Then, it huffed a few times at Wu Zhengjun. After that, it turned its head and huffed a few times at the herd of pigs. Then, it strode with its 4 short legs and chased in the direction that Yu Haoran had left in. Although he didn't understand the red redwood boar's intentions, when he thought of the frightening strength that it had displayed when it killed the expert who was much stronger than it, Wu Zhengjun knew that it didn't need to go through so much trouble if it wanted to harm him. Therefore, without much hesitation, Wu Zhengjun hurriedly chased after it. Under normal circumstances, a Dantian that suffered from the backlash of the secret transformation technique would require at least 5 meridian grasses to completely stabilize the collapse of the Dantian. However, considering the capacity of his Dantian and the baptism of the 10th grade martial disciple realm, Yu Haoran took away the 9 strands of meridian grass to prevent the insufficient energy of the meridian grass from affecting the recovery of his Dantian. Now, he was incomparably glad that he had thought things through. Because he had consumed a total of 9 meridian grasses, his Dantian had suffered a backlash from the secret transformation technique. Only then did he manage to stop it from collapsing. Although he was still unable to utilize the origin energy within his Dantian, as long as he continued to use the origin energy to nourish his Dantian, he would be able to utilize a portion of the origin energy within his Dantian in at most 2 to 3 days. As long as he was able to use his Yuan Qi, coupled with his physical strength that had reached the peak of 9th grade martial warrior, there would be no more than 3 people in the entire Blue Moon secret realm who could pose a threat to him. Yu Haoran spat out a mouthful of turbid qi that had accumulated in his chest and slowly opened his eyes. He stopped cultivating, stood up, and left the tree that he was hiding in. According to the memories of his previous life, combined with the information provided by Chu Zhongyu and the others, he began to determine his current location. After careful estimation, he had a rough idea of his current location. Thinking of the time he had spent to kill those who coveted his storage magic tools and to refine the meridian grass, he knew that the spirit medicine in the target should be about to mature. Therefore, Yu Haoran did not want to waste any more time and planned to head straight for the spirit medicine's birthplace. However, just as he was about to move, a panting sound suddenly came from not far away, forcing him to stop. Turning his head to look, Yu Haoran discovered that the red redwood boar was running towards him with its 4 short legs. His brows slightly furrowed, as he did not understand why the red redwood boar was looking for him. However, when he saw the figure behind the red redwood boar that was covered in blood and had a somewhat chaotic aura, the doubts in his heart immediately dissipated. Along with the dissipation of his doubts, endless anger and killing intent surged into his heart. His cultivation had broken through to the peak of the 8th grade martial warrior. His physical body had reached the peak of the 9th grade, and he possessed the unique, bloodthirsty physique. Wu Zhengjun's true strength was almost at the peak of the 1st grade martial master. Among the disciples that had entered the Blue Moon secret realm, there were no more than 20 people who could threaten him with the strength of a peak 1st grade martial master. As for those who possessed the strength of a martial master, they did not dare to say that they could run amok in the entire Blue Moon secret realm. Basically, they had the ability to set foot in some of the more dangerous places. Disciples who possessed the strength of a martial master would basically be entrusted with important responsibilities by the sect's elders. Therefore, in the first half of the Secret Realm's opening, these disciples who possessed the strength of a martial master would rarely have conflicts with others. As for Wu Jingjuan's current state, there was no need to guess too much. It was definitely a martial master expert under the sect's faction that had made a move. Furthermore, the strength of the person who had made a move was most likely not only at the peak of the first-grade martial master. If these people had made a move against him, although Yu Haoran would be angry, he wouldn't be so angry. That was because he already knew that Zhao Sinyu's plan was specifically aimed at him. However, these people had actually made a move against Wu Jingjun. Didn't that mean that they were intentionally targeting the Qinyan faction? This was something that Yu Haoran could not accept and could not tolerate. Yu Shixiang, I've finally found you. After seeing Yu Haoran, Wu Jingjun, who had been in a tense state, could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Don't speak. Heal your injuries first. He took out a peak 7th grade healing pill from his storage ear and stuffed it into Wu Zhengjuan's mouth as he instructed. Following that, he thanked the Red Redwood Boar. Thank you, Brother Boar, for leading the way. The Red Redwood Boar nodded at Yu Haoran in a very human-like manner before turning around and returning to where it came from. Looking at the returning Redwood Boar and then looking at Wu Zhengjun, who was healing with the help of the pill, Yu Haoran's consciousness began to communicate with Thaling. Thaling, what's going on with that Red Redwood Boar? If it was said that the Red Redwood Boar had no choice but to yield when they were harvesting the meridian grass, because it was as I wished, then why would it be so kind as to lead Wu Zhengjun to find him? Yu Haoran, I'm afraid that this Redwood Boar has something to ask of you. Thaling, who also did not understand the Redwood Boar's actions, guessed. Thaling, according to your perception of the Blue Moon's secret realm, if I were to sign a beast pet contract with a Red Redwood Boar, would I be able to bring it out of the Blue Moon's secret realm? Something to ask of me. Thaling's speculation caused Yu Haoran to suddenly think of a possibility. Because according to Thaling, the Red Redwood Boar's true strength had already reached the 6th grade, which was the realm of a martial king. However, due to the restrictions of the Blue Moon's secret realm's laws, it was unable to break through its current grade and could only maintain its peak 9th grade state. Although it was said that the lifespan of exotic beasts far exceeded that of humans, the Redwood Boar was not in this category. To be honest, the lifespan of a Redwood Boar was even shorter than that of a human. Chapter 176. Inside the Blue Moon's secret realm. Yu Haoran, I think your previous conjecture was probably the Red Redwood Boar's true intentions. After hearing Yu Haoran's conjecture, Thaling realized that this was probably the reason why the Redwood Boar had taken the initiative to help Wu Zhengjun. Moreover, Thaling was even more clear. Yu Haoran, who possessed the Like My Intentions rod, was the most suitable person to sign a pet beast contract with the Redwood Boar among all the disciples who had entered the Blue Moon secret realm. After the event, only Yu Haoran was willing to remove the pet beast contract and return the Red Redwood Boar's freedom. Thaling's agreement made Yu Haoran feel that his conjecture was pretty close to the mark. Since he knew the Red Redwood Boar's intentions, there was no need to guard against it. With the help of the best healing pills, Wu Jingjuan's injuries quickly healed by 90%. The remaining 10% only needed to be healed by adjusting his breathing. Yu Shixiang, there's trouble. After opening his eyes, Wu Zhengjun hurriedly told Yu Haoran about Meng Fanwei and his recent encounters in detail. Don't worry. Hearing that Zhao Sinyu had used the 1,000-year collection of the law enforcement peak as bait in order to deal with him, inciting the greed of the majority of the disciples, and had even arranged for 5 peak first-grade martial masters to join forces to deal with him, Yu Haoran did not panic in the slightest. If it was 3 hours ago, after hearing this news, he might have been a little nervous. After all, if 5 peak first-grade martial masters were to join forces, they should be able to display the strength of a mid-second grade martial master. In his current state, where he could not use the Yuan Qi in his Dantian, even if he could win, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. But now, at most, It would take him 1 to 2 days to strengthen and consolidate his dantian with the help of the meridian grass. He could basically use 40 to 50% of his dantian's yuan qi. As long as he was able to use his yuan qi, coupled with his powerful physical body, he would be able to use his wind steps and light wind palms with his yuan qi. Not only would he be able to easily defeat his enemies, but he wouldn't need to fear anyone joining hands with him. After indicating to Wu Zhengjun that he didn't need to worry, Yu Haoran turned his head and glanced behind him before instructing Wu Zhengjun. Since you and I have met up in advance, let's not separate for the time being. Come with me to snatch a spiritual herb. Originally, according to Yu Haoran's original intention, he didn't want to act with Wu Zhengjun so early in the morning. However, Yu Haoran realized what he had just said. In Zhao Sinyu's plan this time, although he was an important target, Wu Zhengjun was probably also on the list to be eliminated. Therefore, Yu Haoran still hoped to bring Wu Zhengjun along with him in case of any accidents before he could confirm that he could absolutely protect himself in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm. And Wu Zhengjun nodded and agreed to Yu Haoran's arrangement. At the same time, he also realized that the anxiety caused by Zhao Sinyu's plan suddenly calmed down after seeing Yu Haoran. It was as if no matter what trouble or danger there was ahead, as long as Yu Haoran was there, all the trouble and danger could be resolved. After identifying the direction, Yu Haoran continued to lead Wu Zhengjun deeper into the mystery realm. Fortunately, during the mountain training, he had considered Wu Zhengjun's weakness in speed. Faling had specially chosen a footwork martial skill book that was suitable for him according to his physique. Now, after more than half a month of cultivation, the footwork martial skill had already entered the small success stage. Without being able to use the yuan qi in his dantian, Yu Haoran could only reach the small success stage by relying on the speed of his physical body. Therefore, the two of them were able to maintain the same speed. Boom! A fist wrapped in red light landed heavily on the head of a pangolin at the peak of the 7th rank of the 9th rank, directly ending its life. After that, Yu Haoran was vigilant of the surroundings. Wu Zhengjun used the secret art of devouring and began to devour and refine the flesh and blood of the pangolin. In just 5 seconds, the pangolin, which had reached the peak of the 7th rank of the 9th rank and was the size of a bull, turned into a pile of white bones. Seeing the secret art of devouring being refined so quickly, Yu Haoran was envious and couldn't help but feel happy for Wu Zhengjun. Having the secret art of devouring that could allow him to continuously advance. Not only could Wu Zhengjun rapidly increase his cultivation and strength, but it could also accelerate the activation and advancement of his bloodthirsty physique. In the future, with the help of the complete version of the secret art of devouring, it was very likely that he could evolve his bloodthirsty physique into an even more powerful bloodthirsty physique. The faster Wu Zhengjun's strength increased, the stronger it would be for him. It would be both a pressure and a motivation for him. Moreover, he would become a powerful helper on his path to the peak of martial arts. How is it? Seeing that Wu Zhengjun had finished refining the pangolin's flesh, Yu Haoran walked in front of him and asked with concern. At most, with a mutated beast around the 7th rank of the 9th rank, my cultivation will be able to break through to the 9th rank of the martial warrior. However, the grade of my physical body will not increase in the slightest. Wu Zhengjun explained with a frown. It's very normal. After hearing Wu Zhengjun's doubts, Yu Haoran thought for a moment and understood what was going on. Zhengjun, due to the restrictions of the laws of the Blue Moon Secret Realm, any living being in the Secret Realm cannot exceed the peak of the 9th rank of the martial warrior. Your physical body grade has already reached the limit of the peak of the 9th rank of the martial warrior. It has reached the point where you can break through to the martial master physical body grade. Therefore, the secret realm will restrict the advancement of your physical body grade. Yu Haoran explained in detail. Yu Shixiang, then should I give up on increasing the grade of my physical body and focus on increasing my cultivation? Wu Zhengjun arranged, thinking himself clever. No need, continue to cultivate according to your usual cultivation. Yu Haoran retorted as he shook his head. Zhengjun, Although the grade of your physical body cannot break through to the martial master realm in the Blue Moon secret realm, the energy you absorbed from your physical body did not disappear. Instead, it continued to fuse with your physical body. The moment the secret realm ends, the energy that fused with your physical body will instantly explode. Then, with the help of the explosion of energy, not only will your physical body break through to the martial master realm, it might even reach the peak of the first rank of the martial master realm. Yu Xiao, I understand. After taking a deep breath, Wu Jingjun calmed down and said, "All right, let's continue." Seeing that Wu Jingjun had realized the importance of increasing the grade of the physical body in the secret realm, Yu Haoran did not say anything else and directly indicated for them to continue moving forward. Actually, Wu Zhangjun wasn't the only one who had used the secret art of devouring to raise his cultivation and body grade on the way to the place where the spiritual herb grew. Yu Haoran had also devoured a few 9th rank and 9th rank exotic beasts. During the journey, he had consumed a spiritual medicine that could stabilize his dantian and increase the grade of his physical body. He had accidentally discovered that he could continue to break through to the 10th rank of the martial warrior physical body. After a careful discussion with Thaling, Yu Haoran guessed that although the Blue Moon secret realm had very strict restrictions on surpassing the martial warrior realm, the 10th rank of the martial warrior realm was still within the range of the martial warrior realm. Therefore, Yu Haoran planned to use the endless resources in the Blue Moon secret realm to not only break through to the 10th rank of his physical body, but also try to see if his cultivation could break through to the 10th rank of the martial warrior realm. Chapter 177. Inside the Blue Moon secret realm. 6 hours later, as a dark green forest appeared in front of them, Yu Haoran signaled Wu Jingjun to slow down. This was because the forest in front of them was his first target after entering the Blue Moon secret realm, a 7th grade spirit fusing grass. The spirit fusing grass was a kind of top-notch spiritual grass that could purify origin power and spirit, making them more condensed. It was a precious spiritual grass that had a certain effect on martial ancestors, martial kings, and martial monarchs. Moreover, with the spirit-fusing grass and 35 supplementary herbs, one could refine a top-notch elixir called the spirit-fusing pill. The spirit-fusing pill could condense origin power and spirit, further increasing one's strength and potential. At the same time, it had a certain chance of causing a martial artist state of mind to be in a state of emptiness. If one's luck was good, with the help of the state of emptiness, it was possible to touch the surface of the power of law in advance and know what kind of power of law one needed to comprehend. In this way, one could focus on the power of law in advance and carry out specialized cultivation, or specifically find and refine spiritual herbs and elixirs that could assist in comprehending the power of law. Even if one's luck was bad and did not touch the surface of the power of law, the state of mind in the state of emptiness would have an earth-shattering improvement. In his previous life, Yu Haoran had wanted to refine this kind of elixir and had spent a lot of effort to collect all 35 supplementary herbs. However, until his rebirth, he did not get a single trace of the spirit-fusing grass. Therefore, in this life, he had to get the spirit-fusing grass. Zhangjun, there is a top-notch spiritual grass in the forest in front, Yu Haoran said as he pointed to the forest in front. However, that spiritual grass has a guardian exotic beast. I'm afraid that some sect disciples who know about the existence of the spiritual grass have already arrived. Due to the bloodthirsty physique, your concealment of your aura is not perfect. In order to avoid being exposed in advance, you can't go in for the time being. Yu Xiao, I can vaguely sense the presence of many 9th grade spirit beasts on the hill to the west. I'll go there and wait for Senior Martial Brother while devouring and refining their flesh. Wu Zhengjun understood the meaning behind Yu Haoran's words. It wasn't that he wanted to monopolize the treasure, but that his current situation was not suitable for him to participate in the treasure hunt. Therefore, not only was he not dissatisfied, he even found something to do while he was waiting. All right, Yu Haoran nodded. But then, his tone changed and he reminded with a solemn expression. However, you must pay attention to your surroundings at all times. You must not expose the existence of the secret devouring technique in front of others. If anyone discovers the existence of the secret devouring technique, then no matter who that person is, they must be killed. If the other party is stronger than you, inform me immediately. Even if you have to give up on the spiritual herb, you can't let him escape. He knew how fearful the Tianxian continent was of magic that could devour the flesh of living creatures to increase one's strength. He didn't want to expose the existence of the secret devouring technique before he and Wu Zhengjun were strong enough. Got it. Wu Zhengjun nodded and went straight for the hill to the west. After Wu Zhengjun left, Yu Haoran retracted his aura as he walked into the dense forest. The forest wasn't big, with an area of less than 500,000 square meters. However, not only were the trees in the forest very lush, the distance between each tree was less than 2 meters. Therefore, after entering the forest, even if one wanted to increase their speed, the dense space would prevent them from displaying their speed. At the same time, due to the dense space in the forest, the number of exotic beasts in the forest could be said to be few, but also many. It could be said to be few, because such an environment wasn't suitable for some large exotic beast to live in. It could also be said to be many, because such an environment was very suitable for exotic beasts that were good at climbing. For example, exotic beasts with strong reproductive abilities like snakes and spiders. Therefore, after entering the forest for less than 10 meters, Yu Haoran was attacked by more than 10 azure silk snakes that were around 3 meters long, with strength ranging from level 1 to level 3 of the 10th tier, as well as a few dozen 8-clawed black spiders. In order to avoid attracting the attention of the guardian exotic beast in the depths of the forest, or the prey that had set their eyes on the spiritual herb, Yu Haoran relied on his strong physical body to instantly get rid of these low-tier exotic beasts. However, as he went deeper into the forest, the number of azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders increased, and their strength increased as well. More importantly, after going a few dozen meters into the forest, other than the 2 exotic beasts he killed, he didn't see any other exotic beast corpses. This situation could only mean one thing. The group of people who obtained the spirit-dissolving grass in his previous life had yet to enter the forest. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran couldn't care less about the commotion caused by the slaughter. He directly used all of his physical strength to kill the exotic beasts that surrounded him, while circulating the secret art of devouring to devour and refine the exotic beast's flesh and blood to replenish his exhausted physical strength. He didn't know how many azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders he killed, but he could only see a pile of exotic beast corpses and bones behind him. His physical body couldn't withstand the energy from the secret art of devouring to convert the exotic beast's flesh and blood. Yu Haoran noticed that the number of exotic beasts around him suddenly decreased. Furthermore, the gaps between the trees in front of him started to become wider. Yu Haoran knew that he was close to the core of the forest, where the spirit-dissolving grass grew. After cleaning up the last few azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders around him, Yu Haoran didn't take the risk to move forward. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and began to forcefully refine the energy converted by the secret art of devouring and absorbed into his body. Because the consolidation of his dantian wasn't perfect, he couldn't convert the energy into elemental force for the time being. Therefore, the energy converted by the secret art of devouring was all integrated into his physical body. His physical body had already reached the limit of a martial warrior's peak 9th grade. So he couldn't continue to increase his realm, so he couldn't consume any energy. Therefore, Yu Haoran condensed the huge amount of energy accumulated in his body and began to attack the bottleneck of the complete 10th stage physical body. The first attack opened a small gap in the bottleneck. The second attack opened 3 small gaps in the bottleneck. The third impact directly broke through the bottleneck, creating 9 tiny cracks. According to the current trend, he only needed to attack 5 times at most to break through the bottleneck and successfully advance to the perfect 10th grade physical body. Unfortunately, after 3 energy attacks, The energy converted by the secret art of devouring was basically exhausted. Therefore, Yuhaoran could only temporarily stop attacking the bottleneck. Opening his eyes, Yuhaoran turned his head and looked behind him. His face revealed a trace of hesitation. Now, he had two choices. The first choice was to go back a certain distance and continue to hunt the azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders. Then, with the help of the secret art of devouring, he could break through to the perfect 10th grade physical body. Chapter 178. In the dense forest of the Blue Moon's secret realm. If he chose the first option, Yuhaoran was worried that the group of people from his previous life who eventually obtained the spirit melting grass might suddenly appear. If they took the spirit melting grass and left in another direction, then he might miss the spirit melting grass. If he chose the second option, he was worried that with his current state and strength, he might not be a match for the guardian beast, because he didn't know the level and strength of the guardian beast. Therefore, who was unable to make a decision, could only ask Thaling for help. After hearing Yuhaoran's doubts, Thaling couldn't help but scold him, "Stupid." Then, he gave his choice and reason. It must be the second option. Yuhaoran, with your method of concealing your aura, you can go and determine the level and strength of the guardian beast first, then judge whether you can defeat it in your current state and strength. If you can't defeat it, then you can retreat and continue to devour and transform the blood and flesh of the guardian beast, then try to break through to the next realm. If you can defeat it, not only can you obtain the spirit melting grass, but you can also use the guardian beast blood and flesh to break through to the complete 10th grade. That's right. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yuhaoran realized that he was too worried about his gains and losses. Such a simple choice actually made him fall into a dilemma. No wonder Thaling called him stupid. After finishing his cultivation and getting up, Yuhaoran continued to go deeper into the dense forest. However, less than 30 meters in, Yuhaoran saw a giant green silk snake that was about 50 meters long and as thick as a water bucket. A small grass that was about 10 centimeters long and emitted traces of strange energy was in front of the green silk snake's huge head. "I'm going to faint." After seeing the green silk snake that was more than 50 meters long, Thaling couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. "Yuhaoran, are you sure that someone in your previous life obtained the spirit melting grass from the mouth of this guardian beast?" Thaling asked doubtfully. "Yes." When the Blue Moon secret realm was closed, the Achievement Hall Master, Jia Tongxi, obtained it in front of everyone outside the valley from a peak 9th grade martial warrior disciple of the Yun Peak. After carefully recalling the entire process of the secret realm training in his previous life, Yuhaoran said with certainty, "Although I don't know what the bargaining chip was, I saw the spirit melting grass with my own eyes." "That's strange." Yuhaoran's tone was very certain, indicating that someone had indeed obtained the spirit melting grass in his previous life. However, although this azure silk snake in front of him was only at the peak of the 9th rank of the 9th step, just like the red redwood boar, its true grade had probably reached the 5th step, which was the strength of a king realm exotic beast. However, due to the limitations of the arcane realm, it was unable to successfully break through. Spirits beast 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 a beast beast was beast 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 beast. Not to mention a peak 9th grade martial warrior disciple. Even if all the disciples who entered the secret realm were added together, they wouldn't be a match for the green silk snake. Then, how did the Yun Peak disciple obtain the spirit melting grass from the green silk snake's mouth? Yuhaoran retreat. Regardless of how the Yun Peak disciple obtained the spirit melting grass, if it didn't leave now, Yuhaoran might become the green silk snake's food. Sigh. Looking at the spirit melting grass in the green silk snake's mouth, Yuhaoran couldn't accept it. However, he could only sigh and turn around to leave. However, just as he was about to turn around and leave, he heard a cracking sound that made his entire body go numb from the back. Quickly turning around and hiding behind a big tree, Howard restrained his aura and continued to observe. It didn't take long for a black spider to appear in Howard's line of sight. It was about 5 meters tall and had 8 claws that looked like long spikes. I see. After seeing the sudden appearance of the 8-clawed black spider, Thowling finally knew how the Yun Peak disciple obtained the spirit melting grass. At the same time, he couldn't help but shout excitedly, Howard, if things are as I speculate, then not only will you be able to obtain the spirit melting grass, but you will also be able to break through to the realm of martial warrior's realm. I hope so. How could Howard not understand what Thowling meant? However, whether things would develop as he speculated, and whether the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider would die together, allowing him to obtain the spirit melting grass and refine the corpses of the 2 exotic beasts whose strength was comparable to the martial king realm, would depend on how things would develop. After lamenting to himself, Howard silently took a dozen steps back. This way, he could ensure that the 2 powerful exotic beasts wouldn't get involved in their fight, and that they wouldn't leave his line of sight. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. Whether it was the green silk snake or the 8-clawed black spider, their roars were very similar. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he wouldn't be able to tell who attacked first. After the roar, the green silk snake raised its huge head and attacked the 8-clawed black spider's fatal spot with its long tongue. The 8-clawed black spider waved its 4 20-meter-long claws and stabbed at the green silk snake's body. At the same time, the 8-clawed black spider opened its mouth and spat out a ball of white liquid. The white liquid expanded in the wind and quickly turned into a huge spider web, covering the snake's head. Perhaps it wasn't the first time the 2 exotic beasts had fought, so they were familiar with each other's methods. Facing the spider's web, the snake's head quickly retreated. At the same time, the huge snake's tail slapped at the 4 claws. Boom, boom, boom. 3 loud bangs were heard in succession. 3 of the 8-clawed black spider's 4 long claws were swatted away by the snake's tail, causing the joints where the claws were connected to the spider's body to emit the sound of bones grinding. Among the 4 claws of the 8-clawed black spider, the remaining claw that wasn't slapped away directly pierced into the huge body of the green silk snake. Sizzle, sizzle. Whether it was the green silk snake that was stabbed by the claw or the 8-clawed black spider that was almost broken by the claw, both of them let out painful roars. Howard, it seems like my guess was right. These 2 exotic beasts should end up dying together, whether it was the green silk snake or the 8-clawed black spider. Both of them were injured in the first exchange. Moreover, from the fierceness of the 2 exotic beast attacks, it was clear that they both wanted to kill each other. More importantly, although the spirit-melting grass was only a spiritual herb, it also had a maturity period. Otherwise, the green silk snake wouldn't have been protecting it. According to the color of the spirit-melting grass and the faint fragrance it emitted, it was enough to show that it was about to mature. At this moment, whoever defeated the other first and consumed the mature spirit-melting grass would have the absolute advantage and take the opportunity to kill the other party. Therefore, whether it was the green silk snake or the 8-clawed black spider, they had been forced into a desperate situation. If they wanted to live, they could only win or kill the other party. Chapter 179. In the dense forest of the Blue Moon's secret realm. The injuries they suffered seemed to have completely stimulated the bloodlust of the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider. In the following battle, the 2 exotic beasts completely gave up on their own defense. Every time they attacked, they disregarded their own safety and directly attacked their opponent's vital points. In just a minute, the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider were already covered in wounds. Furthermore, because the 2 exotic beasts had suffered heavy injuries, their originally powerful auras that surpassed the martial master realm had been weakened to below the martial warrior realm. Faced with such a situation, Howard did not rashly make a move. This was because he knew that exotic beasts with abnormal talents like the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider would definitely have their own life-saving trump cards to be able to raise their potential by 6 ranks under the suppression of the Blue Moon's Secret Realm's power of law. Before they were forced into a truly desperate situation, they would still keep their trump cards. Perhaps because they were both heavily injured, the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider's fight became slower and slower. Every time they made a move, they were very cautious. Every time they looked at each other, they would carefully look for each other's flaws. However, this state did not last for long. This was because as the spirit melting grass color became greener and the aura it emitted became denser, the green silk snake's tongue flicked faster and faster. On the other hand, the 8-clawed black spider's 8 long claws were shaking up and down even more violently. When the spirit melting grass color reached the limit of green and instantly exploded with an aura of grass that could affect the entire forest, the green silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider launched their final attack. This was also the trump card that the 2 exotic beasts had kept. Unfortunately, the large number of green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders that continuously emerged from the forest made Yuhauran unable to observe the last trump card of the 2 exotic beasts. Thaling, what should we do? Seeing more and more green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders gathering in front of him, Yuhauran's expression gradually became serious. Other than the 2 special exotic beasts, although none of the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders were a match for him, there were too many of them. With the current number of beasts gathered, just killing them alone could tire him to death. No hurry. Compared to Yuhauran's serious expression, the Thaling was very calm and indicated that Yuhauran did not need to be anxious. Z. Just as the tower genie gestured, 2 blood-curdling screams suddenly came from behind them. They made one's scalp tingle and heart tremble. Ignoring the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders, Yuhauran hurriedly turned his head to look. The 8-clawed black spider was slapped to the ground by the azure silk snake's enormous tail. As for the vital parts of the snake body, they were also pierced by the 8-clawed black spider's claws. At this moment, although the azure silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider were still alive, the result of using their strongest attack just now was that they were only 1 step away from death. Yuhauran, be it the azure silk snake or the 8-clawed black spider, not only are they extremely domineering beasts, but they are also extremely cold-blooded beasts. Why did I tell you not to care about the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders? That's because the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders are not here for the spirit melting grass or to devour their lords. They just want to know the result of the battle between their lords. If the cyan silk snakes are victorious, then the cyan silk snakes present will carry out an exterminating attack on the 8-clawed black spider clan. On the other hand, if the 8-clawed black spiders win, then the 8-clawed black spiders in the forest will attack the green silk snakes. Now, although the 2 beasts do not have the strength to continue fighting, they are not dead. They are still a deterrent to their respective clans. So you can go and pick the spirit melting grass. Then you can choose a suitable beast to devour and refine. Then you can take the opportunity to break through to the martial warrior realm. Hearing the Thaling's detailed description of the 2 beasts, Yuhauran's serious expression gradually relaxed. Then he rushed directly to the side of the spirit melting grass. Neither the green silk snakes nor the 8-clawed black spiders were surprised by the sudden appearance of a human beside the spirit melting grass. After all, with their strength before the battle and their unique sensitivity as beasts, they had long known of Yuhauran's existence. They did not attack Yuhauran in advance because Yuhauran's strength was too low. They did not take him seriously at all. Secondly, the spirit melting grass was about to mature. In order to successfully defeat their opponent, they could not afford to waste any energy. He carefully dug out the spirit melting grass and placed it in a wooden box prepared in advance. Then he stored in the victor. Then Yuhauran looked at the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders. Whether it was the green silk snakes or the 8-clawed black spiders, although they were heavily injured, the energy contained in their flesh and blood was not lost much. Therefore, whether it was the green silk snakes or the 8-clawed black spiders, The energy contained in their flesh and blood was enough for him to break through to the complete 10th grade of the martial warrior realm. After thinking for a short while, Yuhauran finally chose the green silk snakes. He chose the green silk snakes because the 8-clawed black spiders were extremely poisonous. Although the secret art of devouring would automatically filter out the poison when devouring the flesh and blood of beasts and would not affect the conversion of flesh and blood, it would definitely affect the speed of the secret art of devouring. Walking up to the green silk snakes, Yuhauran placed his hand on the green silk snake's head and activated the secret art of devouring, starting to devour and convert the green silk snake's flesh and blood. Following the activation of the secret art of devouring, the green silk snakes, which only had a single breath left, could not bear the result of their flesh and blood being devoured. Its cold snake eyes first glanced at Yuhauran, then at the 8-clawed black spider. Then it slowly closed its eyes, and the aura on its body completely disappeared. The moment the aura on the green silk snake's body completely disappeared, the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders that had gathered immediately launched a devastating attack. Originally, the two races were evenly matched in strength. Under the influence of the death of their leader, the green silk snakes immediately fell into a disadvantageous position and were continuously killed by the 8-clawed black spiders. As for Yuhauran, who was devouring and refining the green silk snake's flesh and blood, he simply did not have the energy to pay attention to the intense killing scene. He was now fully focused on controlling the violent energy in his body. Due to its extraordinary talent and the fact that it had devoured countless heavenly treasures, the energy within the green silk snake's flesh and blood was abnormally abundant. Moreover, although the green silk snake's grade was suppressed by the Blue Moon's secret realm and was unable to break through the limits of the peak 9th grade of the 9th step, their long years of cultivation had caused their true strength to reach the 6th step. This had also greatly tempered their consciousness. Therefore, the energy formed from refining the flesh and blood faintly contained a trace of the green silk snake's unyielding will. This caused the energy that entered his body to be out of Yuhauran's control. Chapter 180. Inside the Blue Moon's secret realm, in the dense forest, he separated a part of his consciousness to control the energy in his body while operating the devouring secret realm to devour the converted energy. The devouring secret technique could not only devour the flesh and blood of exotic beasts, but could also devour the remnant souls and wills in the exotic beast's flesh and blood. Therefore, the energy that was devoured quickly calmed down. When the converted energy in his body had accumulated to a certain amount, Yuhauran began to charge towards the martial warrior's perfect 10th stage under the control of his consciousness. With just the first wave of energy, the bottleneck of the perfect 10th stage had been broken by a third. Seeing that the energy formed by converting the flesh and blood of the green silk snake was so powerful, Yuhauran couldn't help but be delighted. Then, he increased his devouring and conversion efforts so that he could accumulate more energy. With the second attempt of devouring and converting more energy, the bottleneck of the perfect 10th stage was like a dam that had been blown open. With the breakthrough of the bottleneck, countless green energy instantly appeared in his body. Then, the green energy quickly merged into his body. At this moment, Yuhauran's entire body was enveloped by the green energy. Moreover, the green energy emitted from his body faintly emitted the majesty of a king, emperor, venerable, and emperor. This caused the green silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders that were fighting each other to subconsciously distance themselves from Yuhauran. At the same time, the moment the green energy appeared, an illusory eye suddenly condensed above the dense forest. There was not a trace of emotion in this eye. It looked coldly at Yuhauran, who was in the midst of breaking through, and a trace of doubt appeared in its cold eyes. Then, it observed Yuhauran for a while. When it discovered that Yuhauran was still in the martial warrior realm and had not surpassed the limits of the secret realm, the illusory eye slowly disappeared. Yuhauran was completely unaware of the changes in his body and the sky above him. This was because after his physical body had broken through to the perfect 10th stage, he continued to devour and convert the flesh and blood of the green silk snake to consolidate his breakthrough. At the same time, he separated a trace of his consciousness to observe the changes in his body after the breakthrough. With just a glance, Yu Haoran could not help but reveal an expression of ecstasy. This was because when his physical body broke through to the complete rank 10 realm, the sudden emergence of green energy, while wildly increasing his physical strength, also began to feed back to his dantian. His dantian, which had just stabilized and needed some time to recuperate, was instantly stabilized. Instantly stabilizing his dantian allowed him to freely mobilize all the essence force in his dantian, allowing him to unleash his full strength. It was only at this moment that Yu Haoran could truly relax. At the same time, in addition to the recovery of his dantian, what made Yu Haoran even more ecstatic was that as his physical body broke through the complete level 10 realm, less and less energy was absorbed by his physical body. More and more energy was converted and poured into his dantian, which began to improve his cultivation. Opening his eyes, Yu Haoran glanced at the azure silk snake's corpse. He discovered that he had only refined 1/10 of the snake's body. 1/10 of the snake's flesh and blood allowed him to easily break through to the complete level 10 realm. Then, wouldn't the remaining 90% also allow him to break through to the complete level 10 realm? Thinking of this, Yu Haoran suppressed the joy in his heart and continued to increase the strength of his devouring and conversion, concentrating on improving his cultivation. After temporarily separating from Yu Haoran, Wu Jingjun headed straight for a nearby hill. Then, with the help of the numerous strange beasts on the hill, he began to devour and convert their flesh and blood to improve his cultivation. While Yu Haoran was crazily slaughtering the azure silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider, Wu Zhengjuan's cultivation successfully broke through to the early level 9 martial warrior realm. His true strength reached the peak of level 1 martial master realm. After consolidating his cultivation, Zhang Xian glanced at the forest not too far away and noticed that Yu Haoran had yet to come out. Wu Zhengjun continued to search for strange beasts and continued to devour and convert their flesh and blood. Just as Yu Haoran was devouring and converting the azure silk snake's corpse with all his strength, working hard to break through to the complete level 10 realm, Wu Jingjun unexpectedly discovered 7 disciples wearing the same uniform outside the forest. Back when he was training in the depths of the mountain range, Yu Haoran had specifically told him about the characteristics of the several powerful factions in the 100 Chi Gate. Among them was the Yun Peak, whose true strength was not inferior to the Achievement Hall. Not only did the Yun Peak's number of disciples not lose to the Achievement Hall and Enforcer Peak, but the Yun Peak's Peak Master, Guozhengfu, was an expert at the peak of level 9 Martial King. It was said that half a month before the Blue Moon Secret Realm opened, the Yun Peak's Peak Master, Guozhengfu, had already entered seclusion, preparing to break through to the Martial King realm. If Guozhengfu succeeded in breaking through to the Martial King realm, then the Yun Peak would become the 6th largest faction, second only to the Senior Statesman, the faction of the Gate Master, the faction of the 2 Deputy Gate Masters, and the faction of the Enforcer Peak. At this moment, the 7 disciples who appeared outside the forest had special insignias on their uniforms, which indicated that they were from the Yun Peak. Considering that Yu Haoran had entered the forest to seize the spiritual medicine, Wu Jingjun was afraid that the disciples of the Yun Peak would disturb Yu Haoran. He threw away the corpse of the strange beast that he had not completely devoured and went around to the other side of the forest, entering the forest. Fortunately, because the azure silk snake had been killed by Yu Haoran in advance, the entire forest was filled with azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders. They had no time to care about the intruder, so Wu Jingjun, who had entered the forest, did not suffer too many attacks. Yu Shixiao, when he reached the core of the forest and saw Yu Haoran devouring a huge snake that was over 50 meters long, Wu Zhengjun thought for a moment and finally called out to him softly. Zhongjun. Although he had increased the devouring and conversion of the azure silk snake's flesh with a secret devouring technique, Yu Haoran's cautious personality allowed him to leave a trace of his consciousness to keep an eye on the situation around him. Therefore, Yu Haoran had noticed Wu Xingjun the moment he arrived at the scene. Seeing Yu Haoran open his eyes, Wu Xingjun quickly said, "Yu Shi Xiang, the 7 disciples of the Yun Peak have already entered the forest. According to my calculations, they should be arriving soon." Lowering his head to look at the azure silk snake that had been devoured by less than a fifth of the 8-clawed black spider that was about to die, Yu Haoran finally made up his mind. "Xingjun, although the azure silk snake and the 8-clawed black spider that I'm devouring are restricted by the rules of the secret realm and cannot break through to the peak of the 9th rank of the 9th step, the energy contained in their flesh has reached the 6th rank, which is the realm of a martial king. If you can devour the flesh of the 8-clawed black spider, not only will you be able to raise your cultivation to the peak of the 9th rank of martial warrior, but the excess energy will also be able to further unlock the bloodthirsty physique. Therefore, kill them." Faced with Yu Haoran's suggestion, Wu Zhangjun did not hesitate at all and directly nodded in agreement. "All right." Stopping the secret devouring technique, Yu Haoran slightly calmed the surging Yuan Li in his dantian and asked, "Which direction did they enter the forest from?" "This direction." Pointing to the left, Wu Zhangjun replied. Chapter 181. In the dense forest of the Blue Moon Mystery Realm. The entire forest wasn't large, and the azure silk snakes and 8-clawed black spiders were in the middle of exterminating each other. Therefore, not only did Wu Xingjun easily reach the depths of the forest in a short period of time, but the 7 disciples of the Yun Peak also passed through the forest without any obstructions. Io. After seeing Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun suddenly appear in front of him, the strongest person from the Yun Peak, Zhu Chang, who was also the leader of this team, couldn't help but cry out in excitement. The disciples of the Yun Peak naturally knew that Yu Haoran had a storage Dharma device that contained all the treasures of the entire law enforcement peak. There were 2 reasons why they didn't chase after Yu Haoran at the beginning. The first reason was just as Yu Haoran had guessed. Before entering the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, the higher-ups of the peak system had already arranged a mission for them. Therefore, before completing the assigned mission, they couldn't and didn't want to have a conflict with Yu Haoran. The second reason was that there were many people who coveted Yu Haoran's storage Dharma device. Whoever obtained Yu Haoran's storage Dharma device first would become the target of public criticism. Therefore, they planned to wait until the second half of the Mystery Realm's opening. No matter if the storage Dharma device was with Yu Haoran or someone else, they would only start to fight for it then. However, not only was the location of this forest secluded, but there were also very few people who knew about it. They could completely kill Yu Haoran without anyone noticing and seize his storage Dharma device. Moreover, they could guarantee that no one would find out afterwards. Thinking of this, Zhu Chang signaled to the 6 people behind him. Being able to form a team meant that the 7 of them had a good relationship. Therefore, under Zhu Chang's signal, the 6 people behind him quickly spread out and surrounded Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun. "Yu Haoran, if you obediently hand over the storage Dharma device, I will definitely let you live." After his companions had completely surrounded Yu Haoran and Wu Xingjun and ensured that they couldn't escape, Zhu Chang threatened in an unusually arrogant manner. "There are a total of 7 people. That Zhu guy must be left to me. How many do you plan to pick from the remaining 6 people?" Ignoring Zhu Chang's threat, Yu Haoran turned to look at Wu Xingjun and asked in a relaxed tone, "Senior brother Yu, can you give all 6 of them to me?" Scratching his head in embarrassment, Wu Zhangjun seemed to be modest, but he was actually quite domineering. After hearing Zhu Chang's request, Yu Haoran's uses his demigods, he's barbarian immediately. Then, he began bargaining of the world. "At least 4. At least 4. Shaking his head, Wu Zhangjun raised 4 fingers and made his minimum request. Sigh. Seeing Wu Zhangjun's resolute attitude, Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh and say in a rather helpless tone, Who asked you to be my junior brother? As your senior brother, how can I not give in to you? All right, for it is. Let's hurry up and get rid of them. After getting Yu Haoran's approval, Wu Zhengjun roared excitedly. Then, he directly used a bloodthirsty martial technique that Thowling had specially taught him according to his bloodthirsty constitution. You're courting death. Originally, Wu Zhengjun and Yu Haoran's disregard had made Zhu Chong and his 6 companions very dissatisfied. Now, Wu Zhengjun had taken the initiative to attack, which made the person who was attacked immediately furious. He roared and then met Wu Zhengjun's attack head-on. After Wu Zhengjun made his move, Yu Haoran looked at Zhu Chong calmly. It's your turn. Yu Haoran, you are courting death, Zhu Chong said through gritted teeth as he looked at Yu Haoran, who had an incomparably relaxed expression and didn't take him seriously at all. You talk too much nonsense. Yu Haoran sneered disdainfully. Then, he mobilized 50% of the origin energy in his dantian and combined it with the strength of his body, which had broken through to the perfected grade 10 realm. He charged at Zhu Chong with murderous intent. In Yu Haoran's opinion, Zhu Chong's talent and aptitude could only be considered outstanding, but not outstanding. He was a peak grade 9 martial warrior and barely had the strength of a grade 1 martial master. This was an important reason why the higher-ups of the sect had entrusted him with such an important task. With 50% of his origin energy and the strength of his body, Yu Haoran's current strength had already reached the peak of grade 1 martial master. The reason why Yu Haoran had exploded with such a powerful strength was because he wanted to end the battle quickly, because he had increased his devouring and transformation of the azure silk snake's flesh and blood. He had already touched the bottleneck of the perfected grade 10 realm. Now, he was anxious to continue using the remaining 4/5 of the azure silk snake's corpse to break through to the perfected grade 10 realm. As long as he could succeed, he would be able to dominate the Blue Moon secret realm. With the strength of a peak grade 1 martial master, he didn't need to use any martial techniques. A simple heavy punch was enough to beat Zhu Chong half to death. Just as Yu Haoran was about to follow up with another punch to end his opponent's life, the horrified Zhu Chong said, "There is a valley about 150 kilometers southeast of this forest. There is a grade 7 vermilion fruit that is about to ripen in the valley." It was because of this sentence that Yu Haoran stopped his fist abruptly. The vermilion fruit was a type of spirit fruit that contained pure energy. It was a top-notch spirit fruit that could be directly consumed and help raise one's cultivation by 1 realm. The grade of the vermilion fruit corresponded to a breakthrough in cultivation. For example, as Zhu Chong had said, the grade 7 vermilion fruit could help a martial ancestor realm expert break through to the grade 1 martial ancestor realm. Of course, if a martial master consumed the vermilion fruit, the effect would be even stronger. At the same time, using the vermilion fruit to break through would not affect one's foundation. Instead, it would strengthen and consolidate one's foundation. Furthermore, it could purify one's dantian and increase one's soul power. Faced with such a powerful spirit fruit, how could Yu Haoran not be tempted? Can I exchange this information for my life? Seeing that Yu Haoran had stopped attacking, Zhu Chong asked with a trembling voice. At the same time, he hated the disciples of the sect master to the core. According to the analysis of the sect master's disciples, Yu Haoran, who couldn't use the secret transformation technique, was at most a peak grade 3 martial warrior. Even if Yu Haoran's talent, potential, perception, and perseverance were outstanding, allowing him to challenge those above his rank, a peak grade 3 martial warrior would at most be able to display the strength of a peak grade 6 martial warrior. It was because of the analysis of the sect master's disciples that Zhu Chong had the idea of fighting for the storage magic tool and ended up in such a state. Turning his head to look at Wu Zhengjun, he found that he had already killed the 4 opponents he had agreed on. Moreover, he was eyeing the 2 people who were trying to escape. Yu Haoran, you once said to Chu Zhongyu that being lenient to your enemies is being cruel to yourself. Seeing Yu Haoran deep in thought, Thowling knew that the kind-hearted Yu Haoran had already decided to let go. Chapter 182. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, in the dense forest. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will definitely kill them. Zhu Chang, these are the words that 8th senior brother gave me when I was participating in the Blue Moon Secret Realms trial. Now, I will use these words to express my attitude. After saying this, Yu Haoran's fist smashed into Zhu Chang's head, ending his life. Zhu Chang looked on in despair. After that, Yu Haoran used the breeze steps to instantly kill the two opponents who wanted to escape but were being targeted by Wu Xingjun. Yu Shixiang, are you all right? Seeing that Yu Haoran was in low spirits, Wu Xingjun asked with concern. I'm fine, just a moment of lament. Waving his hand, Yu Haoran gave a simple explanation before bending down to search the corpses. The Blue Moon Secret Realm had been open for almost a day, and the disciples who entered the Secret Realm would more or less have some gains. Due to the lack of cultivation resources in his previous life, Yu Haoran, who was used to collecting all kinds of cultivation resources, subconsciously began to collect battle weapons. As he had guessed, Zhu Chang's group of 7 had at least 1 or 2 medicinal herbs of decent quality. After collecting the battle weapons, Yu Haoran indicated to Wu Xingjun to devour the 8-clawed black spider that had just died. He returned to the green silk snake's corpse and continued to devour and transform the snake's flesh and blood, continuing to break through to the martial warrior's perfect 10th grade realm. About 150 kilometers away from the forest where Yu Haoran was refining the green silk snake, there was a beautiful valley with dense spiritual energy. At this moment, the dense spiritual energy in the valley was being frantically gathered and devoured by 3 spirit trees that were about 1 meter tall and had 6 tender leaves. At the top of each of the 3 spirit trees, there was a spirit fruit that emitted a different aura. Among them, the spirit fruit at the top of the spirit tree in the middle emitted a fiery aura. The spirit fruit at the top of the spirit tree on the left emitted a tranquil aura like flowing water. The spirit fruit at the top of the spirit tree on the right emitted an ethereal aura like a gentle breeze. At the same time, in the 4 directions of the 3 spirit trees, there were 4 groups of people dressed in different attire. From now on, this valley belongs to the 100 Chi Gate, so you can all leave now. To the east of the 3 spirit trees was the group with the most people and the strongest aura. At this moment, in the eastern group, a young man with a ferocious appearance and a fiery aura commanded in an extremely domineering manner. Lai Yin, the 100 Chi Gate, the 100 Chi Gate, the Blue Moon Secret Realm, all the treasures in the Secret Realm, all the treasures and treasures are all ownerless treasures. Why should this valley belong to the 100 Chi Gate? A genius disciple from the Heart Moon sect retorted unwillingly in the face of the 100-foot Gate's young experts' overbearing order. Senior brother Yu Yuan is right. All the treasures and treasures in the Blue Moon Secret Realm are ownerless. The 100 Chi Gate has no right to chase us away. A genius disciple from the Meteor sect immediately echoed. Many disciples belonging to the Ancient Town sect turned their gazes to the front of the group. The young man, with an outstanding appearance and temperament, was like a warm jade. Feeling the gazes of his fellow disciples behind him, the young man with a temperament like a warm jade couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Logically speaking, the 100 Chi Gate's Lai Yun's overbearing and excessive actions not only caused the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect to lose the 3 vermilion fruits that were about to ripen, but the Ancient Town sect also didn't have the opportunity to fight for the vermilion fruits. Logically speaking, he had to cooperate with the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect to strongly refute and reject Lai Yun's request. However, the Ancient Town sect situation was special. Unlike the 100 Chi Gate, which had many factions, the sect master's faction was unable to fully control the sect. In the Ancient Town sect, Sect Master Zhao Ji was the Ancient Town sect's sky, earth, and god. Therefore, in the sect, he definitely belonged to the category of people who meant what he said, and no one could doubt his strength. Due to the special relationship between Zhao Ji and the 100 Chi Gate's sect master, the Ancient Town sect didn't have any right to refute or reject in front of the 100 Chi Gate. However, looking at the vermilion fruit that was as calm as still water in front of him, the young man with a temperament like a warm jade finally decided to resist. Senior Brother Lai, I don't have many requests. I just want the water attribute vermilion fruit. If Senior Brother Lai is willing to give the vermilion fruit to me, I will immediately bring the people of the ancient town sect out of the valley. Oomph. Hearing the request of the young man with a temperament like a warm jade, Lai Yun couldn't help but snort coldly. Gong Sun Yiming, who do you think you are? How dare you ask me, Lai Yun, to give you a water attribute vermilion fruit for free? Facing the rebuttal of the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect, Lai Yun only sneered and ignored them. He didn't mock or humiliate them. However, facing Gong Sun Yiming of the ancient town sect, Lai Yun's words were somewhat hurtful. Facing Lai Yun's obviously insulting taunts, although Gong Sun Yiming was extremely angry, his expression didn't show it at all. At the same time, he also made a decision. Since you are unwilling, then I will fight for it myself. At most, when I fight, I will try my best to avoid fighting with you to avoid being investigated by the higher-ups of the sect. Looking at the silent Gong Sun Yiming, Lai Yun couldn't help but sneer. The reason why he deliberately targeted Gong Sun Yiming wasn't because he had a grudge against him, but because of the conflict between the sections. As a relative of the vice sect master Lai Yun was very clear about why the sect master, Zhao Ji, could always fight with the various sects in the sect without falling into a disadvantage. Other than Zhao Ji's powerful strength, the ancient town sect's unconditional support was also one of the most important reasons. Therefore, in order to oust Zhao Ji from the position of the sect master, the ancient town sect had to be eradicated. Retracting his gaze from Gong Sun Yiming and looking at the 3 red fruits that were about to ripen, Lai Yun slowly raised his left hand, as if he was going to use force to expel them. However, at this moment, a young man standing beside him gently tugged at his sleeve and whispered a few words. After that, Lai Yun raised his left hand and closed his eyes, as if he didn't care about the people at the scene. Although the Heart Moon sect, the Meteor sect, and the ancient town sect were puzzled by Lai Yun's sudden action of stopping the expulsion, they were happy to have a chance to fight for the red fruits. Yu Shi Xiao, there's something that I don't know if I should ask. About 30 miles away from the valley where the crowd gathered, Wu Zhijun, who had been thinking for a long time, finally couldn't help but ask. Zhongjun, I know what you want to ask, but I can't explain. Chapter 183. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. During the first half of the Secret Realm's opening, the reason why Yu Haoran wasn't willing to move together with Wu Zhengjun was not only because he didn't want to affect his own training and opportunities, but also because he didn't want Wu Zhengjun to discover the secret of him being able to break through to the complete 10th grade realm. However, Zhao Sinyu's fatal trap and the temptation of the 6th grade green silk snake's corpse made him have no choice but to temporarily keep Wu Zhengjun by his side. And the result of doing so would only be exposing the secret of the complete 10th grade realm. Therefore, when his cultivation broke through to the complete 10th grade martial warrior realm, the commotion caused by the breakthrough of the realm aroused Wu Zhengjun's suspicions. To be able to persevere until now before asking, it was enough to show that not only did Wu Zhengjun respect him, there was also a trace of reverence in his heart. Although he wanted to tell Wu Zhengjun about the true division of realms, and even wanted him to try breaking through to the 10th grade realm, Thowling warned him that the complete 10th grade realm belonged to the realm of legends. No one knew how to break through to the complete 10th grade realm. No one knew what kind of changes would occur after breaking through to the complete 10th grade realm. If Wu Zhengjun didn't keep his mouth shut, or if someone searched his soul and found out that Yu Haoran had broken through to the legendary 10th grade realm, it would probably attract the attention of some old fellows and cause trouble and danger that was difficult to prevent. Therefore, the secret of being able to break through to the 10th grade realm could only be known by Yu Haoran alone. Even if it was his sister, Yu Siki, he couldn't reveal the slightest bit of it. Zhengjun, don't worry. After the training in the Blue Moon secret realm ends, I will personally ask Master." Seeing that Wu Jingjun still had a puzzled expression, Yu Haoran could only continue to comfort him. "If Master doesn't know, I will go to the Achievement Hall's library and find out what happened to the realm I just broke through." "Yes, that's the only thing we can do now," Wu Zhengjun said helplessly as he nodded his head. Immediately after, his tone changed and he exhorted with concern. "Yu Shixiang, if you feel the slightest bit of unusualness during the following training, you must tell me in advance." In fact, the reason Wu Zhengjun was concerned about Yu Haoran's cultivation realm and aura when he was devouring and refining the blue thread snake's flesh was not because he wanted to know how Yu Haoran had broken through, but because he was worried about Yu Haoran's safety. He was afraid that breaking through to an unfamiliar realm would endanger Yu Haoran's life. "Got it." Understanding Wu Zhengjun's kindness, Yu Haoran agreed obediently. Then, he signaled Wu Zhengjun to speed up and rush towards the valley where the cinnabar fruit was born. In the valley, actually, after discovering the 3 vermilion fruits in the valley, be it Lai Yun from the 100 Qi Gate or the 3 young experts from Heart Moon Sect, Meteor Sect, and Ancient Town Sect, they had worked together to clear out all the exotic beasts in the valley in order to fight for the vermilion fruits in peace. Even the exotic beast whose strength had reached the peak of 2nd grade martial master did not escape the fate of being killed by everyone's combined efforts. However, as the 3 vermilion fruits gathered and devoured the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it gradually attracted the attention of some exotic beasts outside the valley. When the vermilion fruit in the middle, which was emitting a scorching aura, matured first, an extremely rich spiritual fruit aroma quickly spread out. At the same time, not only did the spiritual fruit aroma spread quickly, it also spread over a wide area. At the very least, all the exotic beasts within a 100-mile radius of the valley could smell the spiritual fruit aroma. The vermilion fruit was not only effective for human ancient martial art practitioners, it was even more effective for exotic beasts. Therefore, after smelling the spiritual fruit aroma, countless exotic beasts left their territories and rushed towards the valley with all their might. Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, who were rushing towards the valley with all their might, also smelled the spiritual fruit aroma. This is a fire-attributed vermilion fruit. As an expert in the art of alchemy, Yu Haoran could tell the origin and attribute of the spiritual fruit just by looking at its aroma. Although the fire-attributed vermilion fruit was not suitable for his body constitution, preventing him from using the vermilion fruit to increase his cultivation, Wu Zhengjun, who had the bloodthirsty physique, happened to have a fire-attributed body constitution. Therefore, Yu Haoran directly grabbed Wu Zhengjun's arm and used his wind steps, which was at the peak of the greater success stage, to quickly rush towards the valley. "Jing Lin, take a group of people and kill those exotic beasts that want to enter the valley." As the strongest person present, Lai Yun knew that trouble was coming when the fire-attributed vermilion fruit emitted its spiritual fruit aroma. However, as someone who had been on the battlefield for a long time, not only did he not panic, but he also calmly instructed his trusted aide beside him to take people and temporarily block the incoming exotic beasts. After that, he stared at the 3 vermilion fruits in the center of the valley. Due to the mutual promotion and suppression of the 5 elements, the moment the fire-attributed vermilion fruit ripened, it emitted a scorching aura that affected the water-attributed and wood-attributed vermilion fruits at the same time, causing the 2 spiritual fruits to ripen faster. If the fire-attributed vermilion fruit were to be plucked at this time, it would definitely affect the water-attributed and wood-attributed vermilion fruits. At best, it would delay the ripening time of the 2 vermilion fruits, but at worst, it might destroy the 2 vermilion fruits. Therefore, even though they knew that countless exotic beasts were rushing over, no one present dared to fight for the ripened vermilion fruit in advance. Seeing that Lai Yun had arranged a group of people to block the entrance of the valley, the 3 strongest cultivators from Heart Moon Sect, Meteor Sect, and Ancient Town Sect looked at each other. After that, they each split up a third of their teams and cooperated with the people from the 100 Qi Gate to stop the incoming exotic beasts. as his cultivation and physical body entered the complete level 10 realm at the same time. Yuhaoran could not accurately judge his true strength. However, according to his own feelings and Thaling speculation, his current strength should be between the peak of 3rd grade martial master and the beginning of 4th grade martial master. With such a powerful strength, even if he had Wu Xingjun with him, it did not affect his speed at all. Therefore, the journey of less than 30 miles took less than 3 minutes to reach the valley. However, when he saw the hundreds of exotic beasts gathered in front of the valley and the warriors fighting with the exotic beasts, Yuhaoran could not help but frown. Due to the energy contained in the vermilion fruit, it was very effective for both human warriors and exotic beasts. He knew that the moment the vermilion fruit ripened, it would attract countless exotic beasts. However, what he did not expect was that there were actually people who had entered the valley in advance. Furthermore, judging from the warriors fighting with the exotic beasts, there were quite a number of people who had entered the valley. Yu Shixiang, what should we do? Wu Xingjun asked as he looked at the disciples of the 4 sects who were fighting with the exotic beasts. Charge in. Just as Wu Xingjun was asking how to deal with the situation in front of them, the fragrance of the spiritual fruit spread out from the valley. Through the fragrance of the spiritual fruit, Yuhaoran knew that the vermilion fruit that had just ripened was a wood attribute vermilion fruit. Chapter 184. In the Blue Moon's secret realm, in front of the valley, the wind-attributed physique belonged to a branch of the wood-attributed physique among the 5 main elements. It was a mutant physique. In other words, the second wood-attributed vermilion fruit that had just ripened was just right for him to use to increase his cultivation. Therefore, how could Yuhaoran, who originally only wanted to fight for the fire-attributed vermilion fruit for Wu Xingjun, give up the opportunity in front of him? Stop right there. Just as Yuhaoran brought Wu Xingjun to the front of the valley, a disciple from the Heart Moon sect sternly reprimanded him. Scram! Yuhaoran glared fiercely at the disciple as he unceremoniously reprimanded him. He didn't need to make a move. With just a glance and a reprimand, the Heart Moon sect disciple, who was only a 1st grade martial warrior, took 3 steps back as if his mind had been severely injured. Ignoring the Heart Moon sect disciple who was mentally injured, Yuhaoran brought Wu Xingjun and continued to charge into the valley. Yuhaoran, stop right there. Just as Yuhaoran was about to charge into the valley, a disciple from the 100 Qi gate sternly reprimanded him as well. You and I are still brothers from the same sect. Don't force me to make a move. Yuhaoran glared coldly at the other party as he impatiently threatened him. Faced with Yuhaoran's threat, the disciple from the Flame Gate sneered and continued to reprimand him. Yuhaoran, this valley now belongs to Senior Lai Yunlai. Scram right now. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed to stop the strange beast from charging into the valley, he would have already killed Yuhaoran and seized the storage device on him. However, he had already secretly left a mark on Yuhaoran's body. After the matter in the valley was over, he would definitely secretly pursue Yuhaoran and obtain the storage device that contained the entire treasury of the law enforcement peak. Die! Yuhaoran didn't make a move. Wu Xingjun, who was standing beside him, appeared in front of the disciple in a flash and punched him in the head. The reason why Wu Xingjun took the initiative to attack was because the other party had said the word scram just now, which was obviously an insult to Yuhaoran. In his subconscious, whoever dared to insult Yuhaoran was his enemy. Whoever was Yuhaoran's enemy deserved to die. Go! Not only was Yuhaoran not angry at Wu Xingjun's reckless act of killing his opponent, he was actually very pleased. Wasn't this the result that he wanted to achieve by nurturing Wu Xingjun wholeheartedly? However, the most important thing now was to enter the valley and fight for the 2 ripe red fruits. Wu Xingjun had killed his companion, who was a peak 7th grade martial warrior, with a single punch. This caused the disciples who wanted to stop Yuhaoran and Wu Xingjun from entering the valley to subconsciously take a few steps back. Then, they watched as the 2 of them rushed into the valley. Yuhaoran, after you get the red fruits, don't leave for a while. Not long after Yuhaoran rushed into the valley, he saw the three red fruits emitting different auras in the center of the valley. At this moment, the thawing in his sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. Got it. Without asking for the reason, Yuhaoran continued to rush into the center of the valley. Stop! Just when Yuhaoran was less than 30 meters away from the center of the valley, an early 9th grade martial warrior disciple from Lai Yun suddenly blocked his path and sternly shouted, Scram! With the same attitude, Yuhaoran coldly retorted, Brat, you're courting death. Ever since Yuhaoran's cultivation and physical body both reached the peak of the 10th grade martial warrior realm, his temperament became very illusory. Even when using Yuan Li, it was impossible to see through his true cultivation. It was because of this that the disciples from the Raging Flame branch, who didn't know him, were so rude. In a flash, Wu Zhengjun appeared in front of Yuhaoran and coldly looked at him. If he dared to take a step forward or say anything insulting, he would kill him just like how he dealt with the person at the entrance of the valley. Although he couldn't see through Yuhaoran's strength, Wu Zhengjun's aura when he appeared in front of Yuhaoran revealed that he was a peak 9th grade martial warrior. Therefore, the early 9th grade martial warrior disciple didn't rashly continue to block him. Instead, he turned his head and looked behind him. Unfortunately, everyone's attention was focused on the red fruits that were about to ripen. No one paid attention to his pleading eyes. Helpless, he could only return to the group. Zhengjun, your constitution is of the fire attribute. That red fruit emitting a scorching aura will not only allow you to easily break through to the martial master realm, but it will also allow you to advance to the peak of the 1st grade martial master realm. He glanced at the three red fruits in the center of the valley and discovered that the one emitting a tranquil aura had yet to mature. Even ordinary cultivators like Lai Yun knew the principle of the 5 elements reinforcing and restraining each other. How could Yuhaoran, who was proficient in the art of alchemy, not know? Therefore, Yuhaoran took advantage of this gap to explain to Wu Zhengjun the effects of the red fruit and which fruit to snatch when they made their move. Wu Zhengjun nodded his head to indicate that he already understood. Then, he stared at the red fruit emitting a scorching aura, waiting for the right time to make his move. As the fragrance of the fire and would attribute red fruits grew stronger and stronger, more and more strange beasts gathered in front of the valley. The cultivators in charge of stopping the strange beasts from entering the valley were quickly unable to withstand the attacks of the strange beasts and had no choice but to retreat into the valley. Senior Brother Lai, we can't hold on much longer. After retreating into the valley, he discovered that Lai Yun and the others were still waiting for the last red fruit to mature. The disciple known as Jing Lin couldn't help but shout for help. All of you go and help. Apart from the 4 peak 9th grade martial warrior helpers, Lai Yun commanded the remaining 40 or so people. In the battle for the red fruit, having more people wouldn't give them much of an advantage. In the end, it still depended on the strength of these top experts. Therefore, when they saw Lai Yun take the initiative to send out the people around him, the 3 young experts from the Heart Moon sect, Meteor sect, and Ancient Town sect also left behind 4 9th grade martial warrior helpers and sent out the remaining 20 or so people to kill the strange beasts. The reinforcements of more than 100 people instantly stopped the strange beasts from charging into the valley. Furthermore, they began to suppress the strange beasts from retreating. At this moment, the water attribute red fruit, which was increasingly affected by the scorching aura and the ethereal aura, suddenly had an increase in its tranquil aura. Immediately after, a spiritual fruit fragrance that could calm one's mind quickly spread out. Do it! The moment the last water attribute red fruit ripened, Yuhaoran, Lai Yun, Gongsun Yiming, and the young experts from the Heart Moon sect and Meteor sect all whispered at the same time. Chapter 185. In the Valley of the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Following the ripening of the last water attribute vermilion fruit, the 22 people who had the ability to fight for the vermilion fruit all rushed towards the 3 vermilion fruits at their fastest speed. Through the speed of everyone's charge, one could tell the difference in strength between the 22 people. The person at the front was Yu Haoran, whose cultivation and physical body had both broken through to the 10th grade. His strength had reached the peak of the 3rd grade martial master, and his footwork martial technique had reached the peak of the large success stage. Following closely behind were Lai Yun and Gong Sun Yiming, whose cultivation was only at the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior, but their strength had reached the middle of the 2nd grade martial master. Lastly was Wu Zhengjun and the 2 young experts from the Heart Moon sect and the Meteor sect. As for the 16 disciples at the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior, they were not on the same level as the 6 people at the front. They fell behind from the beginning. However, although Wu Zhengjun was in the 3rd level, it was not because of his lack of strength, but because of his unfamiliarity with his footwork martial technique. After all, it had only been half a month since he started practicing his footwork martial technique, and his realm had just reached the small success stage. Yu Haoran, who was the fastest, was the first to arrive in front of the 3 vermilion fruits. Without any hesitation, his left and right hands reached for the fire attribute vermilion fruit and the wood attribute vermilion fruit. "You're courting death." Seeing that Yu Haoran's target was the fire and wood attribute vermilion fruits, Lai Yun and the young expert from the Meteor sect roared in anger. Following that, the 2 of them used their strongest martial technique at the same time and directly attacked Yu Haoran's back. "You're courting death." Seeing that Lai Yun and the young expert from the Meteor sect were attacking Yu Haoran at the same time, Wu Zhengjun, who was following behind them, also roared in anger. Then his left and right hands brandished the bloodthirsty fist arts at the same time, attacking the back of the 2 people. At this moment, whether it was Yu Haoran, Lai Yun, or the young expert from the Meteor sect, they were all in a very difficult situation. If they did not give up the fight for the vermilion fruit, they would definitely be attacked from the back by Lai Yun and the young expert from the Meteor sect. If they gave up the fight for the vermilion fruit, given the distance between them and the vermilion fruit might be snatched away by others. Similarly, the young experts of Lai Yun and Meteor sect faced the same choice. If they didn't give up on attacking Yu Haoran, although they could attack Yu Haoran, their backs would definitely be attacked by Wu Zhengjun. Moreover, from the aura emanating from Wu Zhengjun's fists, they knew that this punch would definitely cause them to suffer heavy injuries. At this moment, it was all about who was faster and who was more ruthless to themselves. Whether it was now or in his previous life, Yu Haoran had never seen anyone more ruthless than himself. Moreover, after his physical body had broken through to the complete grade 10 realm, not only had his physical strength increased a lot, but his defense and his ability to resist attacks had also increased by several times. Even if he was attacked by both Lai Yun and the young experts of the Meteor sect at the same time, in the end, he would only be slightly injured and would not be seriously affected. Therefore, Yu Haoran ignored the attack from behind and stretched out his hands to quickly pluck the 2 vermilion fruits. On the other hand, Lai Yun and the young expert from the Meteor sect were obviously not as ruthless as Yu Haoran. Perhaps they considered more and finally chose to stop the attack and turn around to block Wu Zhengjun's attack. Boom! Boom! After the fist techniques collided, it formed 2 roars that were not too loud. Wu Zhengjun, Lai Yun, and the young experts of the Meteor sect all took a few steps back. At this time, Yu Haoran successfully obtained the fire and wood attribute vermilion fruits. The other water attribute vermilion fruit was taken by Gong Sun Yiming, who was stronger. Looking at Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, Lai Yun frowned and asked, "Who are you?" Whether it was Yu Haoran who took the 2 vermilion fruits, or Wu Zhengjun who was able to repel him and the young experts of the Meteor sect at the same time, they were all disciples wearing the uniform of the 100 Chi Gate. However, in Lai Yun's memory, there was no trace of Wu Zhengjun and Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran took out 2 wooden boxes and placed the 2 cinnabar fruits into them. Then, he put them into his storage ring and looked at Lai Yun coldly. "You are Yu Haoran from the Clear Cloud Peak." When Yu Haoran put away the wooden boxes, Lai Yun suddenly remembered something. Before the opening of the Blue Moon Secret Realm, he had heard his junior brother mention that Yu Haoran from the Clear Cloud Peak had a storage Dharma artifact that contained the entire treasury of the Law Enforcement Peak. In 100 Chi Gate, storage-type Dharma artifacts were very rare. Other than the dozen or so martial emperors and the peak masters of the more powerful sects who had storage Dharma artifacts, only the core disciples had storage Dharma artifacts. The Blue Moon secret realm only allowed warriors below the martial warrior realm to enter. Therefore, the only person who had a storage Dharma artifact was Yu Haoran. That's right, I'm Yu Haoran. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran did not deny his identity. After Yu Haoran admitted his identity, no matter if it was Gong's son Yiming from the Ancient Town sect, or the two young experts from the Heart Moon sect, or the Meteor sect, they all had shocked expressions on their faces. Although Yu Haoran's magnificent feat of overturning the Hall of Merit and killing his way to the law enforcement peak only happened in the 100 Chi Gate, as the subordinate sects of the 100 Chi Gate, no matter if it was the Heart Moon sect, the Meteor sect, or the Ancient Town sect that had a special relationship with the 100 Chi Gate, they all had special channels to find out what had happened in the 100 Chi Gate. As one of the young disciples with the most outstanding talent and potential in the sect, they also had the qualifications and ability to find out about this news. Therefore, ever since the Blue Moon secret realm opened, other than searching for precious spiritual herbs, they also wanted to get in touch with Yu Haoran. Of course, their thoughts of getting in touch with him were different from the people of the 100 Chi Gate. They did not know that Yu Haoran had a storage device. They simply wanted to get to know the fierce person who dared to overturn the Hall of Merit and kill his way to the law enforcement peak alone. Yu Haoran, whether it is a storage device or the treasure vault of the law enforcement peak, I, Lai Yun, am not interested in them. You only need to take out the fire attribute vermilion fruit, and you can leave this place. After receiving Yu Haoran's confirmation, Lai Yun's expression did not change at all. He only nodded his head and ordered in a tone that did not allow for refusal. Who are you? Yu Haoran asked despite knowing the answer. As the relative of the deputy sect leader Lai Yin and a genius disciple with outstanding talent and potential, how could Yu Haoran not know who Lai Yun was? However, he hated Lai Yun's superior attitude very much. My name is Lai Yun, and I am the relative of the deputy sect leader Lai Yin. At the same time, I'm the third senior brother that is respected by all the young disciples of the deputy sect leader. Lai Yun said proudly. After hearing Lai Yun's introduction, the originally calm Yu Haoran's face instantly darkened, and he said in a mocking tone, I don't care whose relative you are. Since you're not my senior brother, what right do you have to order me to hand over the vermilion fruit? After hearing Yu Haoran's counterattack, Gong's son Yiming, who had been paying attention to Yu Haoran, almost shouted out, Good! Due to the strength of the 100 Chi Gate, although he wanted a counterattack in the face of Lai Yun's forceful suppression, he could only choose to endure due to layers of apprehension. Now, Yu Haoran's merciless rebuttal made Gong's son Yiming feel a wave of satisfaction. Lai Yun, aren't you very powerful? Lai Yun, don't you look down on everyone? What about now? Chapter 186. In the Valley of the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Yu Haoran, you're courting death. Lai Yun did not expect that Yu Haoran, a new disciple who had just entered the sect, would be so rude and disregard the situation to contradict him. This made him furious. Overturning the Hall of Merit and killing his way to the law enforcement peak alone, Yu Haoran's stunning performance had indeed won the admiration of many young disciples in the sect. However, these young disciples did not include Lai Yun and the other true core disciples of the 100 Chi Gate. This was because, in their opinion, Yu Haoran's various feats were only due to good luck. He was able to overturn the Hall of Merit because Yu Haoran happened to know the stone room where Jia Tongxi hid his treasures. He also happened to find evidence of Jia Tongxi's corruption and collusion with the enemy forces. He killed his way to the law enforcement peak alone because he had the help of the secret transformation technique, forcing the law enforcement peak master, Gao Wanping, to submit. And all of this was because of external help. If he lost his luck and the secret transformation technique, Yu Haoran would only be an ordinary disciple. There was nothing about him that was worthy of worship or envy. This was also why Lai Yun had used a commanding tone towards Yu Haoran at the beginning. This was because he looked down on Yu Haoran, who came from an ordinary background and relied on luck to make a name for himself. "You Xixiang, let me do it." The angry Lai Yun inadvertently emitted a strong, murderous aura, which immediately provoked Wu Jingjun. He appeared in front of Yu Haoran in a flash and asked for a fight. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran rejected Wu Jingjun's request and explained, "Jingjun, if we were to compare pure strength, your strength would be similar to Lai Yun's. However, due to your background and cultivation time, you are still not his match. Therefore, let me do it. Yu Haoran, I've been in the sect for a longer time, and I've been cultivating for longer than you. As a fellow disciple, I won't bully you." Although he was furious and wanted to teach Yu Haoran a lesson, the prideful Lai Yun did not want others to know that he bullied a new disciple. Therefore, Lai Yun said magnanimously, "How about this? I'll let you make 3 moves first. After that, I'll make my move." Yu Haoran looked at Lai Yun in disbelief when he heard the battle method proposed by Lai Yun. Due to the fact that his cultivation and physical body had both broken through to the perfected 10th stage, although no one could see through his true cultivation, the speed at which it was exposed through the fight for the vermilion fruit was enough to show that his cultivation was not low. Under such circumstances, Lai Yun actually dared to let him make 3 moves first. If he wasn't a fool, then he was an idiot. In fact, it wasn't just Yu Haoran who couldn't believe Lai Yun's proposal. Wu Jingjun, Gong Sun Yiming, and the 2 young experts from the Heart Moon sect and Meteor sect all stared at him in disbelief. "Are you sure?" Yu Haoran asked. "Let's do it." Lai Yun put his hands behind his back and assumed a posture that indicated that he would not attack. Within a year of entering the sect, not only did he raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior realm, but he also relied on his talent and potential to possess the strength of a mid-2nd grade martial master. If Lai Yun was a fool, then the person who called him a fool was the real idiot, since he dared to make this decision and assumed a posture that indicated that he had enough confidence to deal with Lin Yun's 3 moves. Therefore, Yu Haoran didn't dare to let his guard down. Reckless Bull's Charge. No matter what trump card Lai Yun had, since a conflict had arisen because of the scarlet fruit, he would have to use his fist to resolve it. Therefore, Yu Haoran directly mobilized 60% of his origin power and combined it with 80% of his physical strength to execute the Reckless Bull Fist technique, which could perfectly display his physical strength. He wanted to test Lai Yun's confidence and see if he could withstand his 3 moves. With 60% of his origin power, 80% of his physical strength, and the support of the Reckless Bull Fist technique, Yu Haoran's Reckless Bull Charge had already reached the mid-2nd grade martial master realm. The most obvious difference between a martial master and a martial warrior was that they could release their origin power and reach the point where they could manifest their origin power. Therefore, Yu Haoran's Raging Bull's Charge finally formed an abnormally strong white bull that was about 3 meters tall. The white bull let out a low roar and charged directly at Lai Yun. Lai Yun's originally calm expression instantly turned serious when he saw the white bull charging at him. Actually, the moment the white bull condensed, he had already regretted it in his heart. The reason why Lai Yun made the 3 moves agreement was because he had enough confidence. Firstly, his junior brother had once said that before Yu Haoran joined the 100 Chi Gate and became a disciple of the Clear Cloud Peak, his cultivation was only at the peak of the 9th grade martial disciple realm. Now, it had only been a month since he became a disciple of the Clear Cloud Peak. At most, his cultivation was only at the peak of the 3rd grade martial warrior realm. Just as the sect master's disciples had predicted, even if Yu Haoran's talent and potential were outstanding and he had the strength to challenge those of a higher cultivation level, at the peak of the 3rd grade martial warrior realm, he would at most have the strength of a 6th grade martial warrior. As for Lai Yun, not only had his cultivation reached the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior realm, but his talent and potential were slightly better than Yu Haoran's, allowing him to have the strength of a mid-2nd grade martial master. More importantly, because he had a fire attribute physique, he attached great importance to the tempering of his physical body. At this moment, his physical body had already reached the early 7th grade martial warrior realm. Therefore, Even if he relied on the defense of his physical body, he was still able to withstand Yu Haoran's 3 attacks. The second reason was that when he had participated in the Blue Moon Mystery Realms trial, he had obtained a magic weapon from his uncle, Lai Yin. It was a defensive magic weapon that did not require the control of spiritual energy and could be used by martial warriors. It was because of these 2 reasons that he dared to propose the 3 moves agreement. However, what he did not expect was that in just a month, Yu Haoran was able to rely on his own cultivation to display the strength of a mid-second grade martial master. This caused him to be shocked, and at the same time, he also felt a trace of regret. He regretted that he had provoked Yu Haoran. In a month's time, Yu Haoran had gone from an odd-job disciple of the 9th grade martial disciple realm to an inner disciple with the strength of a mid-second grade martial master. The cultivation speed that Yu Haoran displayed clearly surpassed his talent and potential during the entrance exam. With Yu Haoran's talent and cultivation speed, it would not take long for him to become an important figure in the sect. If he could establish a good relationship with him and become an ally, then he would have a much better chance of driving Zhao Ji out of the sect master's position. However, now is not the time to think about these things. Chapter 187. In the Valley of the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Boom! The white bull heavily collided with Lai Yun's body. The strong recoil directly scattered the white bull condensed from origin energy. As for Lai Yun, although he wasn't injured, he was still forced back 6 steps by the powerful impact. After the attack, not only did Lai Yun's expression turn ugly, but Yu Haoran's expression was also quite grave. No wonder Lai Yun dared to propose a battle method of not fighting back after 3 moves. It turned out that he had a very precious defensive Dharma artifact on him. To be able to withstand the impact of the Raging Bull's charge, it meant that the defensive Dharma artifact that could be activated without the power of the Divine Soul was at least at the King Realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the Dharma artifact to perfectly withstand the impact of the Raging Bull's charge. Senior Brother Lai, it's the second move. Since Lai Yun had a defensive Dharma artifact that was at least at the King Realm, there was no need to continue probing or hide his strength to defeat him. Therefore, for the second move, Yu Haoran not only used his full strength, but also directly used the bone-piercing cold wind palm of the light wind palm, which was most suitable to deal with defensive Dharma artifacts. Just like the Raging Bull's charge from the first move, the bone-piercing cold wind formed by origin energy transformed into a white jade-like hand that emitted traces of cold chi. Although the white jade-like hand wasn't as large as the palm that Gao Wanping had transformed into, it was still more than 10 meters long and could be considered a small giant palm. The condensed white jade-like hand flew above Lai Yun and fiercely slapped down. Seeing the white jade-like hand quickly slapping down, Lai Yun's expression couldn't help but change when he felt that the white jade-like hand emitted an aura that was at the early 4th grade martial master. This was because he didn't expect that Yu Haoran's first move, which had the power of a mid-second grade martial master, was actually not his strongest strength. At the same time, he also knew that the defensive Dharma artifact on his body that couldn't be activated by the power of the Divine Soul could at most withstand the attack of a 3rd grade martial master. If the attack power exceeded the 3rd grade martial master, the defensive Dharma artifact would completely lose its effect. Then, he could only rely on his physical body to block the white jade-like hand that had the power of an early 4th grade martial master. There was no need to think too much about the result of using his physical body to block the white jade hand. Therefore, Lai Yun could only go against the agreement at the beginning and directly mobilize all the origin energy in his dantian to execute the strongest move among all the martial skills he had grasped until now. Scorching Sun. Since Lai Yun's own strength had also surpassed the martial master realm, the martial skills he used could also reach the level of Yuan Qi manifestation. Therefore, the Scorching Sun Flame martial skill ultimately formed a 6 to 7 meter long red fire dragon. The red fire dragon roared at the sky, and then met the white jade hand head-on. Whether it was the state of the martial skill or the strength of the martial skill user, the power of the fire dragon formed by Lai Yun's martial skill could not be compared to Yu Haoran's white jade hand. Therefore, the result of the clash between the red dragon and the jade white hand was that the red dragon was directly dispersed. Then, the jade white hand, which had not lost much of its power, continued to attack Lai Yun. Yu Haoran, I admit defeat. Although he knew that the red fire dragon formed by the scorching sun flame was definitely not a match for the jade white hand, he did not expect the red fire dragon to be so weak. This made him unable to dodge the attack range of the jade white hand. Helplessly, he could only open his mouth and admit defeat. Originally, according to Yu Haoran's character of not offending others if they didn't offend him, but if they offended him, he would definitely punish them. Therefore, Lai Yun wouldn't show any mercy to those who dared to offend and humiliate him. However, considering the relationship between Lai Yun and Lai Yin, and considering the current conflict between him and Zhao Ji, he finally chose to show mercy. Although the origin energy was out of Yu Haoran's control after it manifested, the jade white hand still had a trace of his consciousness. Therefore, under the control of his consciousness, the jade white hand slightly changed the direction of its attack, allowing Lai Yun to escape the fate of being smashed into a meat patty. However, it was unknown whether Yu Haoran did it intentionally or unintentionally, but the jade white hand that changed the direction of its attack eventually landed on the position of the young expert of Heart Moon Sect. Although the young expert of Heart Moon Sect reacted quickly and escaped the attack range of the jade white hand in time, the 4-peak 9th grade martial warrior disciples guarding him were directly smashed into meat patties by the jade white hand. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean it. Seeing the 4 Heart Moon Sect disciples who were smashed into meat patties, Yu Haoran hurriedly apologized to the young disciple of Heart Moon Sect. Yu Haoran, what do you mean? Seeing the 4 junior brothers who were smashed into meat patties, the young expert of Heart Moon Sect asked with a gloomy face. It's an accident. It's really an accident. Shrugging his shoulders and waving his hands, Yu Haoran said very innocently, An accident? Don't tell me that an accident can make up for the loss of the 4 genius disciples of my Heart Moon Sect? Seeing that Yu Haoran did not seem to care at all, the young expert of Heart Moon Sect suppressed his anger and continued to question. Since it's already like this, what do you want? His originally innocent face immediately turned gloomy as the young expert of Heart Moon Sect continued to question him. His tone was filled with killing intent as he asked, Li Yun, what do you want? Actually, according to Yu Haoran's mental cultivation that was about to break through to the martial sage realm and his soul that had been strengthened by the heavenly elephant soul, he could basically control the jade white hand 100%. The reason why the jade white hand that had deviated from its attack direction and attacked the disciples of Heart Moon Sect was intentional by Yu Haoran. This was because Li Yun of Heart Moon Sect and the 4 disciples who were smashed to death were one of the targets that he wanted to kill in the Blue Moon Secret Realm this time. In his previous life, among the many forces that had attacked Clear Cloud Peak, the sect that had the most people and the most ruthless attack was none other than Heart Moon Sect. Furthermore, 7th Senior Brother Xiao Nin had died under the joint attack of Li Yun and a few martial ancestor realm experts of Heart Moon Sect. Now, the opportunity was rare. How could he give up the opportunity to kill his opponent in front of him? How about it? Compensate my Heart Moon Sect for their losses. Li Yun, who was blinded by anger, did not realize that Yu Haoran's rhetorical question contained a trace of murderous intent. Gong Sun Yiming from the Ancient Town Sect and the young expert from the Meteor Sect opened their mouths, but in the end, no one reminded Li Yun. How are you going to compensate? Yu Haoran asked with great interest. A life for a life. Li Yun gritted his teeth and said, Sigh. Hearing Li Yun's suggestion of compensation, whether it was Lai Yun, Gong Sun Yiming, or the young expert from the Meteor Sect, they could not help but sigh. Originally, Yu Haoran already had the intention to kill you. Now that you propose to pay a life for a life, wouldn't you be forcing him to kill you? All right, then a life for a life. Yu Haoran replied with a smile. As Gong Sun Yiming and the people from the meteor sect were still present, Yu Haoran was worried about finding an excuse to kill Li Yuyuan. Chapter 188. In the Valley of the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Faced with Li Yuyuan's tactful request, how could Yu Haoran, who was worried about finding a reason to attack, refuse? Compared to Lai Yun, who had reached the middle of the second-grade martial master and possessed a high-grade king's domain defensive artifact, he needed to use all of his strength. Yu Haoran was too lazy to use all of his strength against Li Yuyuan, who was not as strong as Lai Yun and did not have a defensive artifact. Under Li Yuyuan's incredulous gaze, the white, jade-like hand formed by the bone-piercing cold wind palm smashed him into a meat patty. After killing Li Yuyuan and dispersing the white, jade-like hand, Yu Haoran's gaze turned to Lai Yun. His originally gentle gaze instantly turned cold. I will not ask for the fire attribute vermilion fruit, nor will I covet the storage artifact. I will also restrain all of my disciples so that they will not cause any trouble for you. Seeing Yu Haoran's cold gaze, Lai Yun, who had luckily escaped with his life, could not help but shiver. Then, he quickly expressed his attitude. Lai Yun, among the disciples who have entered the Blue Moon Mystery Realm, there are at least 7 people who can defeat you. Even if they have the protection of an upper-grade King's Domain Dharma device, it is not impossible for them to kill you. So in the next few days, don't be arrogant, don't be reckless, don't bully others. You must be careful and keep a low profile. Lai Yun's attitude made Yu Haoran very satisfied. After his cultivation and physical body had both advanced to the 10th grade, no one in the entire Blue Moon Secret Realm was his match except for those special beasts. Although he was not afraid of anyone who dared to covet the storage artifact, he did not want to cause too much killing. After all, in the next few years, he still needed to stay in the 100 Qi Gate and did not want to be enemies with everyone in the sect. Moreover, after killing Zhao Xinyu, he might need Lai Yan's support to be able to deal with Zhao Ji. Therefore, Yu Haoran also reminded him in a friendly manner. Thank you, Yu Shixiang, for your reminder. I will remember it. Yu Haoran's reminder was like a senior brother's concern for his junior brother. Lai Yun knew that not only did he overlook the conflict just now, but he was also thinking for him. Therefore, he was very emotional and grateful. In the path of cultivation, the one who reached the top was the teacher. Although Lai Yun had entered the sect earlier than him, his current strength was inferior to his, so it was normal for him to address him as senior brother. Therefore, Yu Haoran accepted it with peace of mind. All right, take your people and leave the valley. Go to other places to find your own opportunities. Before they fought for the vermilion fruit, the Thaling had warned them not to leave the valley in a hurry after obtaining the vermilion fruit. Yu Haoran wanted to know what the Thaling meant. Therefore, he waved his hand at Lai Yun, indicating that he could leave. Yu Shixiang, Senior Wu, farewell. Clasping his hands, Lai Yun turned around and left. Yu Haoran and Lai Yun had both used the strength of a martial master in their earlier battle. Furthermore, the 3 vermilion fruits had been snatched away by them. Some of the rank 9 mutated beasts that had charged into the valley knew that they would not be able to obtain the spirit fruits, so they all turned and left the valley. As for those rank 10 mutated beasts that did not know what was good for them, they had long been slaughtered by the combined forces of the 4 sections. Therefore, Lai Yun did not encounter any resistance and easily left the valley. Yu Shixiang, I have important matters to attend to. I'll take my leave first. Seeing that Yu Haoran was willing to let Lai Yun leave, and then looking at Li Yuyuan, who had been smashed into a meat patty, the young expert from the meteor sect stepped forward and said goodbye. Junior Yu, you're busy. Facing the departure of the young expert from the meteor sect, Yu Haoran did not have any intention of asking him to stay or making a move. Although the meteor sect was one of the murderers of the 100 Qi Gate in his previous life, they did not besiege Qingyan Peak, nor did they deal with anyone from Qingyan Peak. Yu Haoran, who did not have deep feelings for the sect, did not have any intention of killing them. Yu Shixiang, we'll meet again. The young expert from the meteor sect cupped his hands and quickly left the valley with his 4 fellow disciples. Yu Xiaongai, seeing that Lai Yun and the people from the meteor sect had left, Gong Sun Yiming also wanted to leave quickly. After all, Yu Haoran was not only terrifyingly powerful, but also temperamental. He was worried that Yu Haoran would make a move on him. Junior Gong Sun, wait a moment. Directly interrupting Gong Sun Yiming's intention to leave, Yu Haoran took out a 2-meter-long, high-grade whip-shaped celestial device from his storage ear and handed it to him. Yu Xiao, what do you mean by this? Looking at the long whip, Gong Sun Yiming asked doubtfully. Although Gong Sun Yiming did not know what grade the whip was, judging by the strands of coercive power emanating from the whip, he knew that it was definitely a magic artifact. Additionally, it was a high-grade magic artifact. Nothing, I just feel that I'm fated with Junior Gong Sun, so I want to give you a celestial device. Directly throwing the whip to Gong Sun Yiming, Yu Haoran gave a reason that no one would believe. Yu Haoran did not care about this at all. The reason why he gave Gong Sun Yiming a celestial device was that he wanted to repay Gong Sun Yiming's kindness in his previous life. In his previous life, after Qingyun Peak was destroyed, he was forced to escape into the depths of the mountain. In order to prevent the rise of the 100 Qi Gate, and also to prevent the remnants of the 100 Qi Gate from taking revenge in the future, more than a dozen third-rate sects that originally belonged to the 100 Qi Gate continued to pursue the disciples of the 100 Qi Gate who escaped into the depths of the mountain. And Yu Haoran's hiding place happened to be the area that Gong Sun Yiming was in charge of searching. At that time, Gong Sun Yiming had clearly discovered him, but in the end, he chose to ignore him and leave, which allowed Yu Haoran to escape the mountain. Therefore, Yu Haoran had never forgotten this kindness and had always wanted to repay it. This was why Yu Haoran was willing to give him a celestial device of superior zone realm. Catching the whip thrown by Yu Haoran, Gong Sun Yiming did not know what to say as he felt the pressure from the whip. Junior Gong Sun, I still have something to deal with, so I hope you can leave now. Although a celestial device of superior zone realm was not enough to repay the debt of saving his life, Yu Haoran knew that he had to repay it step by step. Therefore, he waved his hand, indicating that Gong Sun Yiming could leave now. Senior brother, let's go. Seeing that Gong Sun Yiming still wanted to say something, one of Yu Haoran's disciples reminded him in a low voice. All right. Seeing that Yu Haoran was looking at the 3 withered vermilion fruit spirit trees, Gong Sun Yiming let out a long sigh, then cupped his hands in obeisance. Yu Xiao, I will accept this celestial device for the time being. In the future, I will definitely give you a treasure of the same value. Without turning around, he waved his hand, indicating that Gong Sun Yiming could leave. Yu Haoran, let Wu Zhengjun guard the entrance of the valley. After Gong Sun Yiming left with his disciples, only he and Wu Zhengjun were left in the valley, apart from the corpses of the strange beasts and the 5 corpses that had been smashed into meat pies. Chapter 189. Blue Moon's Secret Realm, Inside the Valley. After hearing Thaling's instructions, Yu Haoran turned his head and signaled to Wu Zhengjun. Zhengjun, guard the entrance of the valley. Without my orders, no matter who wants to enter the valley, directly kill them. Without asking why he had to guard the entrance of the valley, Wu Zhengjun used his movement technique and rushed straight to the entrance of the valley. Thaling, speak. After Wu Zhengjun left, Yu Haoran directly signaled. No hurry, first dig the soil under the vermilion fruit tree. Without answering Yu Haoran's question, Thaling signaled. Digging and not blasting at open meant that there were treasures under the vermilion fruit tree. Therefore, Yu Haoran directly took out a low-grade zone realm saber and used it to dig the soil under the vermilion fruit tree bit by bit. After digging more than 40 centimeters into the bottom of the tree, which was the root of the vermilion fruit tree, Yu Haoran suddenly felt that the magic weapon had hit something hard. Worried that the hardness and pressure of the magic weapon would damage the treasure underground, Yu Haoran hurriedly put away the magic weapon and used both hands to dig the soil bit by bit. In the end, 3 fist-sized crystals appeared in Yu Haoran's line of sight. The 3 crystals were exactly the same size and shape, but the color and luster were completely different. The crystal in the middle was red, the one on the left was green, and the one on the right was white. Reaching out to pick up the red crystal and carefully observing it, Yu Haoran discovered that there was no record of the crystal in front of him in his memory. "Thaling, what is this?" Pointing at the red crystal in his hand, Yu Haoran asked Thaling for confirmation. "A fire attribute origin crystal." Thaling replied, "What, this is an origin crystal?" After hearing Thaling's answer, Yu Haoran stood up excitedly with a look of disbelief. Regardless of whether it was power, energy, bloodline, life, or laws, as long as it was related to the origin, it would definitely be the rarest and most precious treasure. But what really excited Yu Haoran was that after his rebirth, he had wholeheartedly wanted to refine that artifact. Its foundation was an origin crystal that required the power of the 5 elements. Borrowing the principles of the 5 elemental origins, it eventually evolved into a defense that even exalted realm experts and emperor realm experts would find difficult to break. That's right. Although he wasn't as excited as Yu Haoran, Thaling was still very happy to be able to obtain an origin crystal of the 5 elements. With the origin crystals, he would be able to complete one of his promises. "Yu Haoran, I don't know if you remember that I promised you in the Yu clan's treasury that I would use the 9 Heaven Star obsidian to refine a magic tool for you." "Of course I remember." Yu Haoran nodded. "How could he forget?" After all, as one of the top refining materials in the Tianxian continent, the 9 Heaven Star obsidian was one of the most important materials for refining Exalted Realm and Emperor Realm weapons. Seeing that Yu Haoran hadn't forgotten, Thaling didn't need to remind him and continued. Originally, the 9 Heaven Star obsidian could only refine the tool blank of a magic tool at most. If you want to upgrade the tool blank to a Zone Realm magic tool, you need to add many supplementary refining materials. Now that you have a Wind Attribute Origin Crystal, with just these 2 materials, you can refine a low-level Zone Realm magic tool that is most suitable for you and can accompany you as you grow and advance. Only a low-level Zone Realm magic tool. The 9 Heaven Star obsidian, which could be used to refine Exalted Realm and Emperor Realm weapons, and the Wind Attribute Origin Crystal, which could be used to refine a low-level Zone Realm magic tool. With such precious refining materials, Yu Haoran couldn't help but feel disappointed. Seeing that Yu Haoran wasn't satisfied with the grade of the magic tool, Thaling couldn't help but criticize. "Yu Haoran, if you want to use these 2 materials to refine a magic tool of a higher grade, it's not that I can't refine it, but that will destroy the core function of these 2 top-grade materials and allow you to advance without limit." "Thaling, don't be angry, I just didn't think of it." Yu Haoran hurriedly apologized after hearing Thaling's criticism. "Yu Haoran, based on your body's constitution, you only need a Wind Attribute Origin Crystal to refine a life-bound magic tool. As for the Fire and Water Attribute Origin Crystals, you can take them to the auction house or exchange them for more suitable refining materials at the Tool Refining Pavilion." Thaling wasn't angry just now. He was just dissatisfied with Yu Haoran's short-sightedness. So after Yu Haoran apologized, he began to think for Yu Haoran again. "No, I won't use these 2 origin crystals to exchange for any refining materials because they are of greater use to me," Yu Haoran explained as he put the Fire and Water Attribute Origin Crystals into his storage ring. Thaling didn't pursue the matter too much and only put away the Wind Attribute Origin Crystal. He then considered how to use the Origin Crystal in combination with the 9 Heaven Star Obsidian to refine the most perfect life-bound magic tool for Yu Haoran. After putting away the Fire and Water Attribute Origin Crystals, Yu Haoran raised his head and swept a glance over the valley before turning around and heading straight for the valley's entrance. 50 kilometers away from the valley, where the vermilion fruit had appeared, Gong Sun Yiming looked at the arrogant cultivator in front of him and asked with an abnormally gloomy expression, "Xiao Zong, what do you want?" Gong Sun Yiming, other than the water attribute vermilion fruit, I want to search all of you to see if you have any precious treasures. After all, the Blue Moon Secret Realm belongs to our 100 Chi Gate. The most precious elixirs inside can only belong to our 100 Chi Gate and our Gatemaster's faction. The person called Zhao Zong ordered in an even more domineering manner than Lai Yun. Don't even think about it. Gong Sun Yiming flatly refused as he gripped the whip-shaped magic tool around his waist. If it wasn't for the fact that the Blue Moon Secret Realm didn't allow martial warriors in above to appear, he would have already consumed the water attribute vermilion fruit after obtaining it. Firstly, it was to increase his cultivation and strength. Secondly, it was to avoid attracting the greed of others. But what he didn't expect was that in just a few hours, the news of him obtaining the water attribute vermilion fruit had spread. Furthermore, it had directly attracted the sect's Zhao Zong to personally make a move. This caused Gong Sun Yiming to hate the person who had leaked the news. Gong Sun Yiming, think carefully. Zhao Zong wasn't surprised by Gong Sun Yiming's rejection. If he was being blackmailed for the vermilion fruit that could directly increase his cultivation and strength, he wouldn't agree either. However, the reason why he dared to blackmail him was because he held Gong Sun Yiming's lifeline. That was Gong Sun Yiming's sister, who was left behind in the ancient town sect. According to the feelings Gong Sun Yiming had for his sister, even if Gong Sun Yiming wanted him to cripple his cultivation or commit suicide, he would do it without hesitation, let alone a vermilion fruit. No need to ask, I've thought it through. Nodding his head, Gong Sun Yiming once again confirmed his attitude. As long as he left the Blue Moon Secret Realm, relying on his own talent and potential, relying on his long period of suppression of his cultivation and the water attribute vermilion fruit, not only would he be able to break through to the Martial Master realm, he would also be able to raise his cultivation to the 2nd grade of Martial Master. As long as his cultivation could reach the 2nd grade of Martial Master, not only would he become an elite among the inner disciples, he would also receive the care of the sect's upper echelons. Chapter 190. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Sigh, I wonder how junior sister Tingting is doing now. Faced with Gong Sun Yiming's second rejection, Zhao Zong was still not angry. He only shook his head in confusion and mentioned a girl's name. Zhao Zong, you're shameless. Gong Sun Yiming, who originally had a very firm attitude, scolded angrily after hearing Tingting's name. Gong Sun Yiming, according to what I know, junior sister Tingting will be 16 in a month. At 16, she can participate in the sect's talent and potential test and become a disciple of the ancient sect. She can also find a man and marry him. Faced with Gong Sun Yiming's scolding, Zhao Zong was not angry. Instead, he was enthusiastic about arranging the life of the girl called Tingting. Looking at the 50 brothers behind him, Gong Sun Yiming gritted his teeth and said, Zhao Zong, I can give you the water attribute red fruit. However, don't even think about searching her body. Don't even think about touching Tingting's finger. At this moment, he was incomparably envious of Yu Haoran. If he could be like Yu Haoran and only have one brother who could entrust his life to him, then he would not have to compromise when faced with Zhao Zong's threat. He could choose to kill him to silence him. In this way, he could protect his sister's safety and protect the water attribute red fruit. He could also release the accumulated humiliation in his heart. Unfortunately, killing him to silence him was just a thought. This was because the 50 brothers behind him were not brothers who were of the same mind as him. They were also not trusted subordinates that he had nurtured. These people were a mission that the sect had forcefully arranged for him. It allowed him to borrow the strength of the 50 brothers to fight for the precious elixirs in the secret realm. At the same time, he could use his own valiant strength to protect the safety of these brothers and prevent them from dying in the hands of others. Therefore, he could not make a move in front of these people. Otherwise, not only would he bring disaster to himself, he would also implicate his sister who depended on him for survival. Seeing that Gong Sun Yiming was willing to take a step back, the corners of Zhao Zong's mouth rose slightly. He couldn't help but reveal a smug smile. Then he nodded and agreed, All right, as long as you hand over the water attribute vermilion fruit, I won't search your body and won't touch junior sister Tingting's finger. The reason why he took a step back was because Zhao Zong was also afraid of pushing Gong Sun Yiming too far. After all, Gong Sun Yiming was very strong, so strong that no one present was a match for him. If he forced Gong Sun Yiming into a corner and caused him to slaughter everyone at the scene, then the threat just now would not be worth it. Gong Sun Yiming, if you don't want the water attribute vermilion fruit, you can give it to me. Just as Gong Sun Yiming reluctantly took out the water attribute vermilion fruit and was about to throw it to Zhao Zong, a teasing voice rang out from behind. Hearing the familiar voice behind him, Gong Sun Yiming hurriedly stopped throwing out the cinnabar fruit and turned around excitedly. Then, Gong Sun Yiming saw Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun chatting and laughing as they walked towards them. Yu Haoran, Wu Zhengjun, Zhao Zong, who had also seen Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, immediately revealed an ecstatic smile. Huh. As the saying goes, one can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance without any effort. I really didn't expect, Yu Haoran, Wu Zhengjun, you actually delivered yourself to my doorstep. Different from the other disciples of the sect leader, as a relative of the sect leader, Zhao Zong not only knew that Zhao Xinyu was Zhao Ji's illegitimate son, but he also knew who Zhao Xinyu's mother was. If it wasn't for Zhao Xinyu's mother, how could Zhao Xinyu compete with his brothers for favor? And how could he gain the support of the entire Zhao family just because of his identity as an illegitimate son? Therefore, since Zhao Xinyu became a disciple of the sect leader, with the help of his relative, he not only became Zhao Xinyu's absolute confidant, but also the layout of the secret realm against Yu Haoran basically came from him. Now, after seeing Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, who couldn't be found, he knew that as long as he could successfully kill Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, not only could he gain more trust from Zhao Xinyu, but he could also become a disciple of that force with the help of Zhao Xinyu's recommendation. If he could become a disciple of that force, the improvement of his cultivation and strength would be secondary. With his intelligence and wisdom, he would definitely climb to the top. At that time, even Zhao Ji would have to salute him respectfully when he saw him. You are? Yu Haoran asked as he turned his head indifferently and glanced at Zhao Zong. In fact, Yu Haoran really didn't know who Zhao Zong was. This was because he had never seen or heard of Zhao Zong in his previous life. After hearing Yu Haoran's interrogation, Gong Sun Yiming took the initiative to introduce him. He is called Zhao Zong, a core disciple of your 100 Qi Gate sect leader. He is also a relative of your sect leader, Zhao Ji. Never heard of him. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran realized that he still couldn't remember who Zhao Zong was. Since he didn't have an impression of Zhao Zong, he probably wasn't an important person. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of him. You just need to know that the person who killed you is me, Zhao Zong. Although Zhao Zong himself cared a lot about fame, what he really cared about was the benefits and power. Of course, as the person in charge of strategizing, Zhao Zong preferred to use schemes to kill his enemies. Therefore, he smiled and said to Gong Sun Yiming, Gong Sun Yiming, if you help me kill Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, not only will I give up the water attribute cinnabar fruit, but I will also find a way to make your sister, Gong Sun Yuding, a disciple of my 100 Qi Gates Sunset Peak. Zhao Zong, stop daydreaming. I would rather give you the cinnabar fruit than kill you Shixiao. After hearing Zhao Zong's conditions, Gong Sun Yiming didn't even consider it and directly refused. Putting aside the fact that Yu Haoran had given him a high-grade Zong realm magic weapon, when Yu Haoran defeated Lai Yun, he revealed his strength as an early-stage 4th-grade martial master. Gong Sun Yiming was no match for Yu Haoran. Therefore, how could he agree to Zhao Zong's request to die? Gong Sun Yiming, if you don't agree to my request, after I kill Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun, not only will I kill you, but I will also marry your sister to the lowest servant disciple in our sect. Gong Sun Yiming's refusal made Zhao Zong very unhappy. He couldn't help but increase his threat. Whatever. Gong Sun Yiming shrugged and said with an indifferent expression. He didn't care, not because he didn't care about Zhao Zong's threat, but because he knew that with Yu Haoran's temper, he would never let Zhao Zong go. Moreover, with Yu Haoran's strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill Zhao Zong. Therefore, He dared to ignore Zhao Zong's threat. Fine, just you wait. Gongsun Yiming didn't care about Gongsun Yuding's safety and continued to refuse his request. This was completely beyond Zhao Zhuangjian's expectation, and he couldn't help but burn with anger. Chapter 191. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Whoever kills Yu Haoran and Wu Zhijun will not only get 1/10 of the treasures of my storage Dharma artifact, but I will also reward him with Gongsun Yuding and let him play with her for a month. After announcing the rewards, Zhao Zong waved his hand and signaled the disciples behind him to attack. After hearing Zhao Zong's announcement of the rewards, the 100 disciples behind him seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. One by one, they rushed towards Yu Haoran and Wu Zhijun. Although 1/10 of the rewards from the Law Enforcement Peak's treasury was very tempting, it was far from enough to make them risk their lives like this. What truly made them excited was the second reward that Zhao Zong gave out. It was Gongsun Yiming's sister, Gongsun Yuding. A year ago, when a martial ancestor elder of the ancient town sect went out to do some business, he accidentally met Gongsun Yiming, who was hunting strange beasts. When he saw that Gongsun Yiming, who was only at the peak of the 5th grade of martial disciple, was able to display the strength of a peak 7th grade martial disciple, he immediately had the thought of taking him in as a disciple. After using the talent stone to test Gongsun Yiming's talent, potential, perception, and perseverance, that elder immediately decided to bring him back to the ancient town sect. Because of the talent, potential, perception, and perseverance that Gongsun Yiming displayed, not to mention becoming a disciple of the second-rate sect, the 100 Chi Gate, even becoming an elite disciple of the first-rate sect wouldn't be a problem. As for whether he was willing to join the ancient town sect, the inexperienced Gongsun Yiming was very happy. However, he raised a request, which was that he had to bring along his sister, who he depended on for survival. Otherwise, he wouldn't join the ancient town sect. Originally, according to the talent and potential that Gongsun Yiming displayed, he had the qualifications to bring 1 or 2 people into the ancient town sect at the same time. However, the reason why the ancient town faction agreed to this request was entirely because of Gongsun Yuding. If Lin Mengyao was a fairy that fell from the 9 heavens, then Gongsun Yuding was a fairy that grew up in the human world. It was precisely because of her outstanding appearance and sweet temperament that even though Gongsun Yuding was still underage, her beauty had already spread across thousands of kilometers. In the eyes of many male disciples, if they could obtain Gongsun Yuding, not to mention a month, even if it was a day, they would be willing to die. And this was exactly the same as the saying, to die under a peony, even as a ghost, one would still be a romantic. Yu Xixiang, let me do it. Seeing those martial artists charging over, Wu Zhangjun mobilized the essence energy within his dantian while requesting a battle from Yu Haoran. Fight quickly. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran agreed. Although Zhao Zong's position among the younger disciples of the sect was very high, he was good at scheming and scheming. His own strength was not strong, which led to the overall strength of the team he led being weak. In the team of over 100 people, the majority of the disciples were between grade 3 and grade 7 martial warriors. There were only 7 peak grade 9 martial warriors. Of these 7 people, only one of them had the strength of an early grade 1 martial master. Facing such weak opponents, Yu Haoran was too lazy to make a move. Yu Xixiang, don't worry. Seeing that Yu Haoran had agreed to his request, Wu Zhangjun patted his chest and excitedly welcomed him. Junior brother Gongsun, are you feeling very sullen right now? With Wu Zhangjun's strength, those people were not even a match for him. Therefore, Yu Haoran was not worried about whether Wu Zhangjun would be in danger or not. He also had the leisure to tease him. Sigh. Yu Haoran's teasing made Gongsun Yiming sigh. However, he could only shake his head and bitterly smile, not knowing what to say. Senior brother Gongsun, the path of cultivation is about having a clear mind and pursuing revenge. With your current timid and patient personality, it will definitely delay your own cultivation. Gong Sun Yiming did not know what to say, but Yu Haoran knew what to say. That was to use words to incite dissatisfaction between Gong Sun Yiming and the ancient town sect, so that he would have the intention to change sections. In the profound sky continent, changing sects was not a heinous crime. Instead, it was a very popular way to increase one's strength. Of course, changing sects was from the bottom to the top. For example, if you were originally a disciple of a third-rate sect, but an expert from a second-rate sect took a fancy to you and was willing to take you in as a disciple, then you could completely leave your original sect and become a disciple of a second-rate sect. Not only would no one mock you, but the sect you were originally in would also be very happy about it. Because your original sect had nurtured you, using your relationship, it was very likely that they would receive the support of a second-rate sect and increase their own sect strength. Therefore, changing sects was not only an opportunity to change one's own strength, it was also a method for the original sect to become more powerful. Of course, to rope Gong Sun Yiming into the 100 Chi Gate and become a disciple of the Clear Cloud Peak, other than his own outstanding talent and potential, Yu Haoran really had his eyes on his sister, Gong Sun Yuding. This was because not only did Gong Sun Yuding's talent and potential far exceed Gong Sun Yiming, she also had a unique clear spirit physique. The clear spirit physique was one of the top 20 physiques among the tens of thousands of unique physiques. Because of the Jade Scroll that he had obtained, the top 20 unique physiques had been sealed by an extremely powerful restriction, causing him to be unable to determine the exact ranking of the clear spirit physique. However, from what Yu Haoran had seen from Gong Sun Yuding's shocking cultivation speed in his previous life, the clear spirit physique was definitely one of the top 20 unique physiques. If he could rope in Gong Sun Yiming and his sister to the Clear Cloud Peak and strengthen the foundation of the Clear Cloud Peak, then in the future, the Clear Cloud Peak would definitely have a place in the profound sky continent. Yu Shixiang is right, but I have my own difficulties. The first lesson of accepting the sect's system of cultivation was to have a clear mind, but due to the limitations of himself and his sister, he was unable to do as he pleased. Yiming, you may not believe what I'm about to say, but I still have to say it. From the first time I saw you, I felt that we were fated to meet. It was as if you and I were brothers who had fought side by side in our previous life. Moreover, we were brothers who had gone through a calamity together and could face death calmly in the end. Otherwise, I would not have given you a high-grade zone stage magical weapon the first time we met. Therefore, if you have any difficulties in the future, or if you have any ideas, you can come to the 100 Chi Gate to find me at the Clear Cloud Peak. I can bear all the consequences. If he wanted to rope in Gong Sun Yiming and his sister, he could not be too hasty. Therefore, Yu Haoran left Gong Sun Yiming with a hope. A chance that Gong Sun Yiming might betray the ancient town faction in the end and have a chance to choose again. Thank you, Yu Shixiang, for taking care of me. I will remember this in my heart. The hope that Yu Haoran gave Gong Sun Yiming made him feel very touched. Moreover, he also believed Yu Haoran's words just now. This was because when he received the zone stage magical weapon from Yu Haoran, he also felt the same in his heart. However, due to his sister's safety and the kindness of the elder who had led him to the ancient town faction, he did not want to leave the ancient town faction for the time being. Although Gong Sun Yiming did not show any signs of being moved, Yu Haoran was confident that he would eventually bring Gong Sun Yuding to the Clear Cloud Peak. Chapter 192. Within the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. The bloodthirsty physique had an amplifying effect in battle. As more and more people were killed, the red glow from the bloodthirsty physique became more and more vibrant. Moreover, the slaughter chi on Wu Zhengjuan's body was also becoming thicker and thicker. There was a faint trace of it becoming substantial. Seeing this situation, Yu Haoran could not help but feel joy in his heart. This was because in his previous life, he had obtained a secret technique from a demonic Dao expert. It was a secret technique that could use the slaughter chi to increase one's strength. As long as the slaughter chi on Wu Zhengjuan's body could materialize, he could pass this secret technique to Wu Zhengjun. This would allow him to have a method to increase his strength or a trump card. As for the true power of the secret technique, Yu Haoran was not clear about it. This was because after he had killed so many experts in his previous life, the slaughtered qi on his body did not show any signs of materializing. Damn it! Seeing more and more disciples being easily killed by Wu Zhengjun, Zhao Zong's expression became more and more unsightly. When less than half of the people were left, he couldn't help but curse. Using the Blue Moon secret realm to set up a trap for Yu Haoran was completely his doing. In order for the final trap to succeed, two conditions had to be met. The first condition was that Yu Haoran had to have treasures on him that were enough to attract the greed of countless people. This was something that contained the magic storage tool that had been collected by the law enforcement peak for nearly 1,000 years. This condition was completely met. The second condition was Yu Haoran's strength. With the strength that Yu Haoran possessed, everyone had to believe that they had a chance to obtain the magic storage tool. Only then would they choose to make a move and fight with their lives on the line. As for the second condition, although he did not send anyone to specifically investigate, after comparing it with a few peerless geniuses with the talent and potential of a peak martial saint, he finally concluded that Yu Haoran's cultivation was only at the peak of a third-grade martial warrior. As for Wu Zhengjun, whose talent and potential were slightly inferior, even if he had a special physique, his cultivation would definitely not surpass Yu Haoran's. It was because of these two conditions that he finally decided to set up a trap for Yu Haoran that he thought would be foolproof. But the truth, Yu Haoran, who had outstanding talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance, had not yet made a move. Wu Zhengjun alone was able to easily slaughter everyone. This meant that his plan had made a serious mistake. He raised his head and saw Wu Zhengjun excitedly slaughtering his subordinates. Yu Haoran and Gongsun Yiming were paying full attention to Wu Zhengjun's battle. He began to quietly leave the scene. As long as he could escape from the scene, he would definitely find the strongest experts in the Sectmaster's faction and reformulate a plan to deal with Yu Haoran. But just as he retreated less than 3 meters, a cyan figure instantly appeared behind him. Zhao Zong, the battle is not over yet. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? With a playful smile on his face, Yu Haoran teased. Yu Shixiang, is all my fault. I beg you, Yu Shixiang, to be magnanimous and let me go. I will definitely remember today's kindness. I will definitely repay it 10 times, 100 times in the future. People who were good at scheming were generally very eloquent. Zhao Zong was the same. With a humble tone and a bitter self-reproach, facing Zhao Zong's plea, an ordinary person would definitely be soft-hearted. But the person Zhao Zong was facing was a person who was better at scheming than him, more eloquent than him, and had extremely sharp eyes. Therefore, in the face of Zhao Zong's plea, Yu Haoran only chuckled and then continued to observe Wu Zhengjun without saying a word. However, when he saw that Zhao Zong was about to make a move, he sneered and threatened. If you dare to take one more step, I will kill you. After hearing Yu Haoran's threat, Zhao Zong immediately stood there obediently and accompanied Yu Haoran to watch Wu Zhengjun's massacre performance. As the number of killings increased, not only did Wu Zhengjun's killing intent become thicker and thicker, but his bloodthirsty physique was also activated at an accelerated rate under the stimulation of large amounts of blood. Through the red light emitted from Wu Zhengjun's body, Yu Haoran felt that his bloodthirsty physique had been activated to more than 70%. At the same time, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he vaguely saw a very gentle old man wearing a red robe above Wu Zhengjun's head. Considering that Thaling's divine sense was suppressed by the secret realm, he couldn't use his divine sense to investigate, so he temporarily suppressed his doubts and didn't ask Thaling for confirmation. As the killing intent increased and the bloodthirsty physique continued to activate, Wu Zhengjun's martial skills not only became more powerful, but his speed also became faster. In less than 3 minutes, there were only 7 people left out of the 50 or so disciples. The remaining 7 people were not only at the peak of 9th grade martial warrior, they were also very fast and knew how to combine attacks, which allowed them to last until the end. Slightly frowning, Yu Haoran knew that he had to make a move. Because through the battle just now, the 7 people had already seen Wu Zhengjuan's disadvantage, which was that his speed was a drag, making it difficult for him to attack the 7 people who were displaying their true speed. At the same time, they also began to use their speed to harass Wu Zhengjun. Not only did they cause his attacks to miss and waste his origin energy, but they also further consumed his physical strength, wanting to tire him out. In a flash, Yu Haoran appeared beside Wu Zhengjun and forcefully ordered, "You go and rest first." Okay. Unwillingly looking at the 7 people who relied on their speed to prevent him from attacking, Wu Zhengjun retreated to Zhao Zong's side and then looked at him with a murderous expression. At the same time, he also secretly made up his mind that in the following period of time, he would put all his effort into practicing martial skills to make up for his disadvantage. Looking at the 7 people who used their combined attacks to increase their speed, Yu Haoran couldn't help but sneer. Afterwards, he didn't use the reckless bull fist technique nor the light wind palm. Instead, he relied on his Gale steps, which had reached the peak of the large success realm, and then combined it with his foundation fist technique. With only 7 punches, he finished off the 7-peak 9th grade martial warriors. Seeing Yu Haoran kill his subordinates much more easily than Wu Zhengjun, Zhao Zong had already guessed that Yu Haoran would be able to do it. However, when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still very surprised. At the same time, he had a feeling in his heart that Zhao Xinyu was going against Yu Haoran at every turn. It was likely that Zhao Xinyu, Zhao Ji, and even the entire Zhao clan would be destroyed in Yu Haoran's hands. Once again returning to Zhao Zong's side, Yu Haoran coldly asked, "Do you have any last words?" Facing Yu Haoran's cold judgment, Zhao Zong was a little afraid, but he didn't panic. "Yu Shixiang, 3 important pieces of information in exchange for my life. How about it? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.